official podcast for ProjectFandom.com. I'm your host, Nina.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are back to discuss House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 6, The Princess and the Queen. So, listen.
The big time jump.
Huge time jump. Just like a whole decade gone.
Yes.
Listen, I'm just going to go on record and say that I don't think I like this as much as most people, but the things that I don't like have more to do with things that are implied and what we didn't get because of a time jump.
Yeah.
So I am, more than willing to admit that maybe it's not fair to say, like, you didn't like the episode, because actually that isn't fair, because I did like it. Like, I've liked it. I've loved it every week. But I have negative feelings
yeah.
That I will talk about, but I did still enjoy the episode.
Yes.
I want to get your overall thoughts, but I also want to quickly say what you and I were talking about before we started recording, which is me saying how I feel kind of lucky because I don't see a lot of the bullshit that I think you and like our friend Ryan sees about this show online. I don't know why that is. I'm super grateful. But I am so grateful I don't see the shit about this show. And, and by shit, I mean opinions.
Yes, shit opinions.
Yes, shit opinions.
Something about this show brings out incels.
Of course.
So that's entertaining.
A
lot of women haters.
Yeah. Oh, right. Surprise, surprise. I can't imagine that anyone can still, I'm about to tell a lie. I can absolutely imagine. But it's still just so gross to me that there are people who can defend Criston.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't know how you look at his words and his actions. But I mean, I guess if the show ended last week with him brutally murdering someone and then begins this week with him getting a promotion, then I guess I can see how the viewers are confused on how to regard this character because, yeah, there didn't seem to be any consequences for his actions. What did you think of the episode?
Yes. Well, I have similar feelings as you. I would say that as far as the episode goes, which is named after a short story by the same name that is featured in an anthology called Dangerous Women, so it's not even in Fire or Blood. I would say that the episode itself is beautifully crafted. I loved the theme. They're doing such a great job focusing on a certain theme per week. Mm-hmm. And this week I felt like they were focusing on mothers and the dynamics between them, not the typical dynamics of mothers. Not like sweet mothers and their little chickadee babies and whatever. This is harsh reality of motherhood, primarily between Rhaenyra and Alicent, of course, but also Laena, and also among the dragons. Vhagar is known as the Queen of all Dragons because not only is she the oldest, but she's probably the mother in some way of all the living dragons. And also Dreamfire is probably the mother of Dany's 3 dragons. So what these mothers are willing to do to pass on their beliefs and protect their children and put their children forward, all these things, loved that. I loved the new actors, of course. that my feelings about the time jump have nothing to do with them.
Right.
And I loved the conclusion to yet another book mystery who burnt Harrenhal, because that is not said.
Right.
And it was widely believed that that was something to take Harwin out of the picture and that Lionel was just an accident. But in this case, it's clearly really that Lionel was the bigger target and Harwin was just a bonus.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I would have preferred that we had maybe another 2 episodes in between where we have like maybe a year jump and then a 3 or 4 year jump. So we are. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. What I was thinking was I would have exactly like what you were saying, 2 years, and what I wanted was the next episode after last week, episode 6, still being Millie Alcock and
right,
other homegirl whose name I keep forgetting. God help me,
yes,
Emily. And then episode 7 would be the first time we see the adults, but it wouldn't be this, not this stuff leading to this. And then episode 8 would be this episode. Everything that happened in this episode could still happen. I'm not upset with the things that happen as well. I want Rhaenyra to be a bit fucking smarter sometimes, but I mean, I wouldn't change the episode itself. I'm not unhappy with that. I just felt like we should have had those 2 in between. I feel like we needed more with Millie and a little bit more building up to this with the adults.
Yeah, because what we're missing is some of the emotional punch of the pivotal moments in this episode. We miss out on Rhaenyra's little family that she has going with Laenor and Harwin. We never get, I'm never going to get over the fact that we didn't get to see her and Harwin together.
It was just
like, come on.
And here's the thing. There are people who, like, they don't, this is not meant to be a slight, because it is a lot of similar names. Yep. It's a lot of similar looking white folks. Okay. A lot of similar looking garb in this show. So I get it. But there are people who don't watch it the way we do, taking notes, or even if we weren't podcasting it. I mean, I know, like, you know how we watch TV. We're watching TV.
Right.
There are folks right now who don't know who Harwin is or was. They watched this episode. They didn't get...
They had to have it explained afterwards.
So they didn't get why the Hand, who also, there were folks who's like, wait, that's the guy who was given the good advice, because they aged him up a little bit. Just a little bit.
Right.
But again, it's like there's a lot of moving pieces. And like you, I'm sorry I cut you off, but I think it would have gone a long way in us connecting to her grief and Daemon's grief if we got to know Harwin and Laena a bit more.
Right. And instead of feeling, I know that the writers feel like they've kind of cleared the board so that now Rhaenyra and Daemon can be together, but we're missing the loss that brings them back together and how they're much more serious and sober people for what they experienced. Because Laena and Daemon marriage, he ends up killing her fiance for her, and then they run off on their dragons and go touring for 10 years and have an amazing time. And Rhaenyra takes Harwin back to Dragonstone with them. He and Laenor attend her birth from the second baby on, so they're there like holding each other's hands and holding her hands together in the same room. And I understand why they didn't do that, but because they're trying to do some kind of female dynamic, which is fine. It's great. But we miss that wholeness in their family, their little polycule that they have moving together. And then they loop in Laena and Daemon because Rhaenyra and Laena get to be close, and she goes to attend her birth over there. She's there when Laena dies. So it's they sucked that whole emotional punch out. And I'm kind of like, I saw so many people be like, well, too bad about Harwin, but I have no feelings about it. Because he never said anything.
And you kind of should. You should have feelings about it.
It's a huge loss.
Yeah, and Oh, gosh, just like, I know we're going to talk about it, but like, yeah, you should have feelings about it. If you haven't, you shouldn't have had to have read the books to have feelings about this.
Right. And one of the my favorite sentences here, where they kind of explain the transition between Criston and Harwin, is when they say that she goes back to Dragonstone with her family. Mm-hmm. Sir Criston Cole was not amongst them, having gone over entirely to the Queen's party, the Greens, but the massive and redoubtable Breakbones filled his place, becoming the foremost of the Blacks, ever at Rhaenyra's side at feast and ball and hunt. He was always with her. Always.
And I think they did a good job, because, again, not to slam any of the actors, but you did get a sense that he was close with his boys, her boys, Laena's, the boys.
Yes.
all their
boys.
All their boys. This little family here. So I feel like the actor did a great job selling that in the way he interacted with them in the 2 brief scenes that he had, including the goodbye. Yeah. But, like, I think the story would have been better for it.
Right.
If we had gotten, like we just said, I won't rehash it all. My preference of what those 2 additional episodes I feel like we needed.
Yes.
And I mean, there are so many, I get it. I try to, what I think, I choose to believe is that maybe they didn't know for certain that they would get a second season. And so which I find so hard to believe.
Like, come on.
Like, the story is the fucking story. Because if that's the case, then you end it at 10, right? You know, you get what I'm saying, right? Or you make it a 12-episode miniseries and that's it. But yeah, they chose to not go that route, and I think it's unfortunate. But what we got was good. I liked it.
Sure.
You know, and
good episode of TV.
Oh my god, Laena and Vhagar. Are you fucking kidding me? Listen, when she
why
how you okay. First of all, when we saw that precious, sweet baby girl, when she was supposed to be selling herself to this old dude, selling the idea of marrying her, I should say, to this old dude, but instead, all baby girl wanted to do was talk about dragons. Like, where do you think Vhagar made her nest? Like, from a young age, she was determined.
Right. Yes.
And I just feel like that also, like, I want to know, how the fuck did she find and bind herself to the oldest living, biggest dragon in this motherfucker? This little girl at 15. She didn't get a dragon until she was 15, and it was Vhagar?
Right.
That's a fucking mini-series. What are we doing? I wanted to know how that happened.
God. Yes, I feel, you know, I picture her spending all those years building her empathy for Vhagar's feelings of loneliness, you know, and her history. She was probably reading the histories of what Vhagar did with Visenya and trying to understand Vhagar, because she just felt that she was calling for her. And she convinced her dad to take her through these little islands until she finally found this island. And I could just imagine her creeping up on the island and giving Vhagar that beautiful look that they had between them and just coming to an understanding. You know? Like, why would we not want to see that?
This is kind of like when, what was her name? What is the chick, who's the girl from Dawson's Creek? Katie, what's her name? Holmes.
Katie Holmes.
This is like when she was a kid and she was looking in like a teen magazine and she was like, I'm going to marry Tom Cruise one day.
Right.
And then she did. That's what it was like. Right. I picture, that was a long way to go for that joke. But seriously, it was like Laena was just sitting around Driftmark sketching what Vhagar looks like, you know, manifesting herself on this fucking dragon. And
writing their names in cursive together.
Yes. coming out with cute little portmanteaus.
Yeah.
Vena. Lagar. Come on.
Oh my god.
And they denied us, Sarah. They fucking denied us. But anyway.
Rob.
You ready to talk about this episode, though?
Yes.
The details? Okay. We open on Rhaenyra giving birth to a healthy baby boy, which Alicent demands to see immediately. Immediately. Like, homegirl was outside the birthing door waiting for those squishy sounds to stop.
The squishing and squelching was so real.
Listen, I don't know if I've told this story before, but we filmed Jack's birth, and my dad was in the room, and he was at like the head of the bed, so he was like filming over my shoulder. So like the traditional shot, like everything the mom can see, my dad was getting. Why do we also have a camera at the foot of the bed on a tripod over the doctor's shoulder? Why did I think that was something I wanted to see or hear? But we have it. And so, yes, those sounds are very accurate. And it's just, yeah.
But you're right. As soon as the baby cries, you can hear the heels of the maid coming up to the door.
Yes.
And she gives her 20 seconds.
Yes.
And then opens the door.
Yep.
And uses the word immediately.
Yes.
Some people were like, well, she didn't really say, I mean, y'all are being really hard on Alicent. She didn't really say how long. Yes, she did. She said immediately.
I do. I do not know why folks just, in the face of just some clear, very fucked up actions, they will try to rush to defend this woman. I'm like, there's no reason. There's no reason for that.
No.
Well, there's no good reason for that. There's no defensible reason for what she just did. Did you notice that this was I want to say it was a one shot until she passed the baby off. So when Rhaenyra stands and starts to like get dressed, you don't even realize that she's still attached to the baby. Right? And as they're putting her clothes on her, she's like shushing, trying to soothe the baby, and I'm like, she's a beast for doing this. But that whole thing, from the moment the scene opens to her in labor, and then there's a scene where she passes the baby to one of the nurses, and I think that's when it cuts. But like up until then, it had just been this really weird, wet, uncomfortable kind of like spinny shot of her just standing there teetering while people are trying to get her out of bloody clothes and put this dress on her, and and then they cut the cord, and it just felt it was like weirdly intimate, you know.
Right.
I think it makes
really felt the imposition of what she was being put through.
Yes, exactly. I was just about to say, you really kind of understand just, you know, how fucked up it is that this is being requested of her.
Right.
And if you want to say, to be fair, you know, she just wants to see the baby. But Rhaenyra is like, no, fuck that. I will not give her the satisfaction. It's going to be...
No.
Yeah.
It was clear that this baby was a pawn in their family dynamics. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who birthed the baby into a family with fucked up family dynamics, I absolutely didn't let my baby get snatched away and passed around in some kind of in-law game to, you know, prove whatever point. Alicent wanted to see the baby the second it came out so she could grab him and take him and be like, see, he's a bastard. You think that's fine? You think it's fine that Alicent wanted to do that? You know, she didn't even get to nurse him until Alicent had her chance to be horrible to her.
To just no regard for the baby at all. Just it's alive, it's crying, it's screaming. Bring it to me.
Oh yeah. And when somebody asks you in this situation for something ridiculous, you sometimes you have to be dramatic to let them understand or at least see that you get what they're pulling.
What they're fucking doing. Exactly. So just like when she walks in the room and she's like, you should be in bed after your labors. She's like, I have no doubt that you would prefer that.
Right.
Bitch.
In bed on the other side of the castle, away from my newborn, while you parade him around to all your people, telling them that he's illegitimate. I'm good.
Absolutely not.
How about I never let him out of my sight? Thanks.
She has to deliver the afterbirth. They're standing up.
In her dress.
Yeah. Lena arrives to walk her. And I like that he is outraged. You know, even he's like, what? Why now? I like that he offered to take the baby instead. You know.
Yeah.
I didn't like that he just was like, oh, I just heard a boy. Splendid. Like, where the fuck was you? But then I get the times because Viserys was watching a fucking tournament. But I didn't like... I'll wait. I'll save it. I don't want to start complaining just yet. He tries to sympathize as only a man can. I took a lance through the shoulder once. My sympathies, my condolences.
Like, please shut your face right now. But I saw some people compare this to, like, make the very, very blatant comparison to how birthing is the woman's battleground, like Emma said in the first episode. So he's making a battle, joke or whatever. I did like their kind of friendly joking, and the fact that he understands that Alicent is always ridiculous in that way, because he says, I thought we were past this.
Yes.
No, we're not past it. We're doing it again. You know, because all she says is she wants to see him. He's like, oh God, here we go. You know,
I like that that they're not as estranged. I thought it could go one very dramatic way, which I would totally understand if he spent like 10 years just being a little shit because you know, he saw what happened to his lover and all that. I would absolutely understand if Lena was just like, fuck all of y'all. But I like that it doesn't seem like it's been that way between them. Sure, seems like he's been drowning in his, grief and boys and liquor and all the stuff she said and nice horses and stuff. But I like that at least he does seem to care about her interests and not, he's like one of the few people not actively trying to scheme against her. So I did like that. I did like that.
They seem to have a nice respect between them.
Who is the man on the stairs? Because I went and did my Googles and I couldn't find a Lord Caswell of any significance. But there's somebody on the stairs who's like, kind of kissing up. It's an honor to be the first to congratulate you or whatever. And it just kind of felt like with her, basically just being like, I'm here if you ever need me. And her being like, oh, the day may come. I'm like, okay, is he going to prove important? I don't know what you can tell me. But, I mean, I did my Googling and I couldn't find anybody.
Yeah, Lord Caswell is on Team Black.
Good.
We'll just say that.
Good. So then Alicent is a bitch, yo. She's just a bitch.
Yes.
Viserys has one arm? What's going on with his arm? Listen, I did not notice the first time I watched this, like, in the live chat. And so, like, I was just watching the episode. And then I saw a couple of comments. People were like, did he lose an arm? And I thought y'all were just being assholes. Because I thought, surely the man has both his arms. But then when I rewatched it, not even for notes, just to watch it again, he came walking in there with that one sleeve just dangling, and I'm like, oh shit. So, did they have to eventually cut off part of his arm?
Good question. This is a show thing. Originally, the big amputation thing that they had to do in the books was just the 2 fingers. They didn't fall off on their own. So she had to bring in, Rhaenyra had to fly in her own maester because Melos was not aggressive enough with his treatment. Mm-hmm. So in this case, I think they've just eliminated that guy from the story, and they've given it to Orwyle, who is the new maester on the council, who was...
Is that the black man?
Yeah, he was Melos's intern or whatever. He was the one who was always suggesting things that were more aggressive. So I think we're to understand that the reason that Viserys is still alive is the fact that Melos died and left this guy in charge, and he actually knows what he's doing.
Got it. So he was like, dude, the forearm got to go.
It's got to go. Yeah, just cut it all off at this point. Yeah.
Melos was barely cold in his grave before homie was like, listen.
It's got to go. Yeah.
Right. So Laenor picks the name Joffrey, and I had said last week in the thread I didn't want to spoil for anyone, but a few weeks ago in the episode The Rogue Prince, right before Daemon arrives, they're having the discussion like what to do, and they're in the Stepstones, they're losing and all of that, and Daemon arrives on his dragon. Before he pulls up, you hear someone in the army yell out, "Dragon incoming," right? Right. And the closed caption said the person who said that was Joffrey Valerion.
Right.
So I was like, and I just happened to be, oddly enough, watching it on my iPad for some reason. Because that was like probably the first episode that I watched like 10 times. Because of that ending scene. But I happened to be watching it on my iPad. So I noticed it because watching it on the TV through the HBO Max app, the subtitles were different. So anyway, I took a screenshot thinking to myself, because the person who called it out felt like that would be a nobody character, you know, like the guy whose job it is to like call out that the dragon, you know, like air traffic controller guy, you know?
Right.
I was like, why would he be a Valerian, you know? So in my head, I was thinking it was just like a mistake, but to be jokey, you know, because the name Joffrey, you know, I was like, whoops, and I posted it in the group. And you were immediately like, that's a mistake, don't go Google it.
Don't Google it.
So I was like, okay, that must be like an upcoming character, but I didn't give it any thought beyond that. And then when we met Loudmouth, then I was like, oh, but then I was like, no, it's a different last name. And then the death happened, and I was like, okay, it makes sense if either she would offer or he would ask to name. Yeah. But for some reason, like this, I guess we could talk about it. I didn't think we'd have 3 kids. Like, when she gave birth, right? Like, I don't think we knew it was the 3rd child until... I'm trying to think the first time it was mentioned that this was the 3rd one. Because I remember watching this episode feeling like for a minute I thought this was their first kid.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he picks the name Joffrey without consulting her.
Yeah. In this case.
Yes.
In the book case, he was trying to go for Joffrey from the beginning, and Corlys was involved, and he kept saying, no, you're not going to do that. And I think part of his reasoning, not only was he, embarrassed about, about Laenor being gay, but the idea is that this is the heir to the throne, so you can't just throw a Joffrey Targaryen on the throne.
Right.
So they gave the first two boys more traditional Targaryen names. So the heir and the spare, and then the third is Joffrey. So.
Third, you could just name him Gary. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about
Red
little
Targaryen.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck about little Joe over there. Regular ass names. Okay. Then Viserys, like, okay, there's being willfully ignorant, and then there's being willfully ignorant and saying stupid shit. And he has his father's nose as something you didn't have to say. Like, you could have just not said that. You big dummy. When do you die? Jesus Christ.
Alicent looks at Rhaenyra like, is he fucking serious?
Right?
Right now?
Like, she forgot for a second. Like, right? Like,
right.
am I... That's why later she says to Criston, am I the only fucking one not crazy? These fucking Targaryens are driving her crazy.
Right. But I do love how Viserys... I'm glad that they got it in a little bit, because one of the more charming things about him is that he loves these babies.
Yes,
he loves the strong boys because they are lusty lads. You know, he likes these fat brown babies with their little button noses, you know, and he's always like grabbing them, sticking them on his knee and telling them they're going to be on the Iron Throne. And
he's like, y'all don't look like sickly, anemic vampires.
Right. They're not even going to live. Come on. Yeah. He loves these little guys, so it was nice.
So Alicent delivers this line to Laenor: do keep trying, Sir Laenor. Sooner or late, you might get one who looks like you.
Oh.
So
I have been mad about that line since I read the book. I was like, I just know they're going to stick it in. I know.
And this is like, I mean, I get like all of this is from the book, so this is what it is. But it is made even more complicated by the fact that this is a black man.
Right.
And look, listen, I have 2 biracial children. Kaylee is as white as she wants to be. But Jack is brown like me. So I get it. I know how it could go either way. But it's so funny to me, like the entire realm is like, y'all hear something? I don't. Because she had a baby with this black man and had these 3 very obviously not black children. It's hilarious to me. It makes this even more like, I'm not Team Green. Fuck Alicent forever. It's my motto. But I can imagine like how infuriating it is that everybody is just like, yep, he got his daddy's nose. You're like, what?
Laenor has a very distinct nose.
He does.
Very pointy.
Yes.
I mean, he's got great features, but they're very strong, and they're not anything like Harwin's.
Nothing going on over there. And there's not a drop of melanin to be found in these babies. It's just,
at all.
Oh, God. She literally, Rhaenyra now, leaves a trail of blood behind when they leave. And we see that Sir Bitch a lot is still on the job, now personally guarding the queen.
I thought it was really interesting that when they walk up, just think about the fact that every time they encounter Alicent, they have to deal with Criston, and who killed Laenor's lover at their wedding every single time. And he guards access to Alicent. When they walked up, he greeted only Rhaenyra. And then when they came out, he deliberately had his whole back to them.
Yeah.
And then turns back. And when they have their little conversation in the hallway, and he looks back, he sees Laenor looks at the trail of blood going all the way back, and because it's out of focus, it leads to Criston. And Criston does, I'm not a man, obviously, but men have this nod thing, they have various nods.
I know what you're saying.
And I'll nod at a man if I want to not engage, but just be like, hey, you know, whatever. So they're different nods. I think we all understand this. Criston does an open-throated nod.
Yep.
That's more like, yup, motherfucker.
Yup. He sure did. Yup. I noticed that. It wasn't...
It's full of disrespect.
Yes. I think one of the things that... And there are a lot of things that frustrates me with this situation because, again, I'm firmly Team Black. But... And I'm prepared, like, I feel like my girl keeps getting L after L after L, and I know this universe, so I'm fully aware that she'll probably collect more before she collects a W.
Everyone collects L's,
right.
Really.
But I feel like it's so heavily her collecting these L's. It's just so frustrating to me.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I think just really pisses me off is how this incel motherfucker is allowed to thrive. Like, this is my problem with them yada-yadaing what happened last week. Like, nobody...
Right.
Like, I'm so confused. And I don't think it's nitpicky. I feel like that's a very valid thing to want to know.
Yeah.
From the storyteller is... Oh, hey, remember that really violent murder that took place at the end of this chapter? What happened with that? Like, what conversations were had? How were these decisions made? Because it looks like he just got away with it. I want to know, like, what kind of conversations Alicent had with Criston to get to the point where she can... walk down the hallway with him like they're two girlfriends. Like, can you believe that motherfucker? Like, how we get here? And I just feel like that's important stuff to show.
Right. And the fact that he has been allowed to thrive is yet another symptom of Viserys' weakness. So let's say that Alicent, as Ryan Condal claims, happened in the ensuing time, that she went to Viserys and begged for him to let it go and give her Criston as her personal knight, and then that way they wouldn't have that kind of, you know, dynamic between Rhaenyra and Laenor having to deal with him. And that's how this has been saved. Well, in the meanwhile, this man has done nothing but drink Rhaenyra haterade. For 10 solid years, he's been giving her looks, thinking bitch-eating crackers about everything she does. She walks down the hall, he thinks she's disgusting. She lives, he thinks she's disgusting. He is down there abusing her children on a daily basis. And killed Laenor's lover, gets her lover fired, feels 1,000% justified every day, and gets stronger and more smug every move.
And there's something, I'm going to wait until we get to the scene. I was going to say it now, but I'm going to wait. But yes, abusing her children, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like,
and he's nobody. He's nobody.
Like, to the point where later when Harwin is fussing with his dad, or his dad is fussing at him.
Yeah.
And he's like, because so-and-so, like, he's nobody.
Right.
I was like, that's
he's the son of a steward.
Right. And I think it's weird to me that, I'm going off topic a little bit, but it's weird to me when these Targaryens, namely Rhaenyra, chooses to kind of be entitled and like, sis, you didn't think anybody, and I get it, because you are the princess and the heir apparent, but like, sis, you didn't think people were going to question. Like, I get it when Alicent was like, 1 is a mistake, 3 is like, fuck y'all. Like, you just playing in people's faces. Like, I just want her to be a little bit smarter. And again, show me that, I mean, it's a complex situation. He's a gay man.
Yeah.
What are you saying if you're like, I don't know, if you had a situation like with Marjorie and Renly, was it? Yeah. Remember when she offered to bring her brother in and all that stuff? Like, I get why. I just feel like we need it more. I'm sorry. I knew I was going off on a tangent, but like that whole thing. It's like I want
concession. You know, after Joffrey was killed, I think that originally they had said, let's do our duty and then we can do as we please, assuming that means breed some heirs. But I think that after Joffrey was killed, she was just like, maybe that's even too far. Let's just find something else. You know, let's find another solution. And so I don't think they ever consummated their marriage in this situation.
I absolutely believe that. So again, though, it's like you have to think after you did it the first time. I mean, and again, I guess this is all speculation because the show hasn't given me, as a non-book reader, anything to go on with this relationship. It felt like love, right? Like the goodbye and all of that, like it. But I don't know, because I don't know like how it came about, and I want to know her thought process, that she was like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this, because again, it feels like you are banking on your name and your status. That this isn't going to be a problem for you. Meanwhile, the person you know is a problem for you she's playing fucking chess. And you're playing Parcheesi or some shit. I don't know what Rhaenyra's doing. So it's, again, it's just interesting to me when they choose to be like, well, I am the king or I'm the princess and this is what, you know, and when they're just like, I don't know, I'm just going to do what people tell me to do, or just let this happen to me. I don't know.
I think, you know, Alicent says later about the 1 is a mistake and 3 is an insult. But it seems like a no-win scenario, because let's say you do try with Laenor the second time or something like that, or you find a blonde guy out on the street or something like that. So then you're admitting that the first one
so it's like you're going to have a brown hair, 1 silver hair, 2 more brown.
Right. So why not stick with the same donor? You know, it's a no-win scenario. And then the fact that, you know, some people were talking about bastardy. So, like, there's a whole thing in Westeros with bastardy. There's just not, but it's all from the male side, right? Because when you're looking at a feudal society from the female side, if a baby is born into a marriage, then there's a presumption of legitimacy if the husband accepts the baby.
Right.
And so you have the crown princess birthing a child. First of all, she claims the baby, which means it's legitimate because she's herself.
Right.
And then Laenor calls them his children, so they are legitimate. So unless you can prove otherwise, they aren't bastards.
Right.
Even if you could prove
I get
otherwise,
you. Yeah.
Laenor has already claimed them. So,
yeah.
You know, I guess they were looking at loopholes, and Alicent is not, you know, she's like, but I care about decency, not technicalities.
That was it. Yeah. So that was something. I'm gonna move on because I definitely want to touch on that too. I definitely have that written down in the notes for that scene. Okay, but the next thing that happens is after this trail of blood scene, it's made very clear to the audience that Sir Harwin, the new, commander of the City Watch, son of Lionel Strong, the Hand of the King, is the daddy of their babies, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Laenor in this scene is super sweet with all the boys. It was so funny when they were like, Dad, can we so-and-so? And Laenor was like, no, back to the dragon pit, because there was like a split second where I was like, did they just call Harwin Dad? I was like, who are they talking to? So it was just so cute when they were like listening to Laenor, who is not their father, but is their father. Right. And it felt like, to me, they're letting you know that Laenor knows exactly who the biological father of these children are when he says, of course, to letting Harwin hold him and then the kind of
Yeah.
look he gives them when he like purposely gives them privacy.
Yeah.
Somebody posted a
he's-
picture. I'm sorry. Somebody posted in the scenes for next week. There's no. This was at the end of this episode. Them arriving at Dragonstone. All of them, even including Carl. Somebody was like, "This is the future liberal squad." I was like, "Yes."
Not joking.
No, not joking. Complete with dragons.
Darwin in there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
Yeah, he absolutely knows, and I think that her comment was double intended to when she says, "Laenor and I thank you, Commander," and
yeah.
You know that he understands and they understand and all that. And then their little smirks. He's like, "Another boy, I heard."
Yeah, he's like,
I love that.
He's like, "I make boys. I'm a manly man. Big strong boys."
Little. Then he does this little. Oh, you're asleep in front of the captain of the city guard. I see. It's so disrespectful. She's like, yeah. Kind of runs in the family.
Aww.
That was adorable.
And now he's dead. I cannot believe they did that. And I don't. I don't. Just in case. I mean, I feel like we mentioned this last week, but the times we've seen him quite a few times. But most notably, he was the guy skinning the rabbit when Rhaenyra returned from killing that boar covered in blood. He's the guy who she bumped into when she was out doing hood rat shit with Daemon, and he kept her secret then. The guy who pulled her out of the fucking riot last week. Like, he's been around, but I feel like considering his role presently, you know, at the beginning of this episode at least, you know, they could have, you know, given us a little bit more.
Just a handful of lines, or asking for him to attend her, or because he becomes her personal guard.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
because even here, like with him being the head of the commander of the City Watch, like it felt like he had to come up with excuses. Like he said something like escorting the boys from the dragon pit because they had picked out an egg for the baby.
Right.
So it was like, you know, he'd have to come up with excuses for visiting her quarters and things like that.
Right.
Okay, so how to bind your dragon. Jacaerys, is that the eldest? Mm-hmm. He's trying to control / bind himself to Vermax.
Yeah.
I guess his chosen dragon. And this is interesting because we see he doesn't speak whatever this language is. And I don't think it's Valyrian, right?
It is.
It is? Because it's weird because this is, on my part, when I don't know why they do it differently. And, please, if you're listening at home, if you watch with closed captions, let me know if you notice this. When Daemon and Rhaenyra speak Valyrian, it's always like in this yellow text, and it's a certain font. When this guy was speaking, it was like a different font, and it was like light brown text. It was weird. So I was like, is that their way of like letting a simpleton like me with these like, you know, languages that don't really exist? Because I thought because the guy, when Daemon stole the egg, and she was like, which egg did he steal? They were speaking High Valyrian then, and it was in that yellow text, you know? So I was like, maybe this is different, and that would explain why Jace doesn't know it and needs an interpreter. But if it's Valyrian, so they're just not learning Valyrian? Is she not teaching her boys Valyrian?
Good question. You would think they would have to learn some, but I know that this guy speaks only fully Valyrian, so that's why he had to have an interpreter. So maybe the kids are just learning some of it, because like Daemon was still working with his daughter on that. So
that's true. They mentioned that. So you know that they are fully binded when the dragon will no longer accept commands from anyone else, and we see that the dragon is still not there yet because he doesn't halt until the trainer, the dragon master, whatever they're called, says it. So he's like, you gotta get that before that'll happen. Like no, he didn't say your brother. Like Prince Aegon did. So we know Aegon has Sunfire,
right?
And we learn Aemon does not yet have a dragon. But
because his egg never hatched.
But
which is the little side slur that all the Greens say about Rhaenyra's drag.
Because Alicent says it later, right? Yeah,
right. That she thought that their eggs would never hatch, but all three of theirs does. Mm-hmm. But Aemon's didn't.
Aemon's did not. Jace is able, though, to give the Dracarys command so that Vermax can eat a goat. And then the boys present Aemon with his own dragon, which is really a pig that they've put wings on, and they call it the Pink Dread. These all badass kids. Now,
it was so mean to Aemon, but I thought they were all kind of cute together. Minus Aemon.
Aemon looks like a future school shooter. I think I've asked before. There's schools? I feel like we never talk about proper school in Westeros.
They're just tutors, yeah.
Yeah, if there's a school, this kid's gonna go fucking shoot it up with some bows and arrows or something. He's gonna go crazy.
He's a tutor shooter.
Yes, he's a tutor shooter.
Sorry, I'll see myself out.
No, that's his name now. A weird fucking kid.
The tutor shooter.
Now, it's interesting that I think it appears to me anyway in this scene that Aegon is like here. It felt like he was the ringleader of this little prank.
100%.
But like the Jace and Luke, they were like, yeah, haha. Like they don't. It is absolutely bullying. But I felt like they were thinking more like good-spirited, like, haha, this is funny. Or maybe they were being little bullies. But it was interesting that he seemed to get along with them. Which Alicent later is like, boy.
Right.
If you don't cut this out.
Yes. It seemed more like
he don't like his brother.
Right. I mean, he is a school shooter. So, I felt like they were like, sure, it is mean, whatever, but it seemed more like teasing than bullying.
Yeah,
like, yes, he's in his feelings about it, and obviously he would prefer not to be provoked about it, but they just were kind of like, haha, okay, off we go,
This leads him to go poking around in the caves. And he encounters a dragon who's just trying to fucking take a nap. Like, the fuck are you doing back here, kid?
Right.
You posted in the group the name of this dragon.
Yeah. So this is Dreamfire, and Dreamfire is Rhaena's dragon, and Rhaena was Jaehaerys and Alysanne's sister. She was married to Aegon the Uncrowned, and then when he died, she was forcibly married to Maegor the Cruel. So Dreamfire is quite old, but not nearly as old as Vhagar. And you'll notice that, and like I mentioned, she probably, and it seems like they're hinting by her appearance to be the mother of the 3 dragons that Daenerys gets later on. So if you look at her, she really does look like a much bigger Drogon. So the styling is supposed to kind of speak to that, I think.
So, isn't that one of Damon's daughters?
Yeah, she's named after her.
Yeah, okay. Thought so. So we finally meet. Okay, but also, wait a second. Yes. Wait. So I have here in the margins of my notes, where the fuck did Aemon even come from? Did I know? Wait, did we know 10 years ago about Aemon? He didn't exist, did he?
No, I mean, I guess you could say that when, she had to go on that gross booty call in the middle of the night.
That's what I'm wondering, if we're supposed to think that's where Aemon is. See, that's why he liked the way he is.
And I think we're supposed to see that he's drawn to he's drawn kind of like Lena is drawn to these more darker dragons.
Right.
Oh, and and Amy asked this question about why this dragon was even in here. So this is the dragon pit, and they built this because, first of all, they wanted to keep the dragons from touring the countryside on their own when they didn't have a rider and, eating children and whatever like Drogon does. And then secondly, because, as I mentioned, one of the little girls had run off with Balerion, and he had gone to Old Valyria, and they had both been injured, and she died, and he came back, and he was nasty from that point on. So they kind of want to control where the older dragons are when they're between riders. So they're either in the dragon pit, like this one is, or they're on the Dragon Mont, which is out on Dragonstone. That's a lot of dragons, but there's a place out on Dragonstone where Jaehaerys and Alizanne's dragons are as well. So they're out there in the ether.
I mean, and you gotta keep them in places like this for the reasons you said, and also you got dumbass. Can you imagine that dumbass Lannister? Like, out there trying to catch him. He'd probably pay people, like you said, like they're out there trying to.
And there are a couple wild dragons out there. One is named Cannibal, and one is named Sheepstealer, and then there's a little one named Grey Ghost. And every once in a while, somebody like a Lannister or whatever, or some drunken, crews of men, as usual, go out there and see if they can ride these dragons and get burnt to a crisp, because they don't accept just anybody. So it's just not, it's just a bad idea.
So we meet Helena. Helena. Yeah, that's her name. Who... So, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to have feelings about this. So, Helena is, again... to be clear, the reason I was asking about Aemon, because as far as I knew, when we last left, they had the little girl baby girl who's crying all the time, and then Aegon, who would have been about 4 or 5 or whatever it was. So now Helena is a teenage girl, and so she likes bugs.
Mm-hmm. I love her already.
She does math really fast in her head, I guess. Like, she's science-minded, I feel like they're saying. Yeah. Nature-minded. But then they did this thing where I don't know how to take this because, they did 2 things. They had her say some shit that was like, okay, she's like, she has the gift of prophecy or something, was what it felt like. It felt very like when they would, what's her face, would speak in riddles and shit, right? From Game of Thrones. So it felt like that. But then there was like a moment when Alicent went to touch her. Yeah. And she pulled away. Mm-hmm. And I was like...
She is.
I was like, is this like... I wondered if they were trying to say she's autistic. And I didn't know how I felt if they were trying to say she's autistic and she's also special. Like, she can see the future. You know what I mean? Because it feels like it's playing into that like Attorney Wu has been accused of it. The Good Doctor, where it's like you can't just you have to be special. You have to be a genius or have some like remarkable thing about you. You can't just be autistic. And so I was just wondering if that's what they were doing. And I know there's only but so much you can say.
Mm-hmm. They don't say that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But I think that we're supposed to understand that she's just highly strung, that she's just super sensitive to her environment, and that's the reason she was always crying as a baby. And now she's found some solace in these bugs and whatever. But I think they're definitely suggesting that she's a dreamer. How much of what she was saying, the last statement was certainly meant to be prophetic, but there were two preceding statements that you could even read into potentially. So I think, I don't know, I think if you look at her maybe like from the Harry Potter universe, you know, like Luna Lovegood or even Trelawney, you know, where they're just super eccentric and kind of in the atmosphere. She's not even really present. Alicent is trying to listen to her in her tolerant, kind of bored parent way, and I did relate to her in that way sometimes when I'm listening to, like, you know,
like
Fortnite or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, guess what, Mommy? Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
But it's almost like she was in her zone and maybe crossing over to that other side already, because she already knew when Aemond walked into the room that he'd been in the dragon pit, and there's no reason she would have known that. So maybe the fact that Alicent touched her just kind of startled her.
She says two things that I wrote down. Because we find out that Aemon is obviously he's a kid, and he's a kid who believes he's entitled to a fucking dragon. I feel like, you know, most kids have felt entitled to less and behave worse. So I get it. The kid is like, where the fuck is my dragon? But Alicent doesn't really have love for these dragons. She's like, I don't know why you're so obsessed with these cursed beasts. I'm like, bitch, it's a fucking dragon. What do you think? But she tells him, you know, you'll have a dragon one day, I'm sure of it. And to this, Helena says he'll have to close an eye. So at first, I think I said in a group when she said this, I was like, ooh, is he gonna like have to die to get his dragon? Because I was thinking like closed eyes. But then I realized she said an eye. And I know you can't tell us though. But I was like, oh my God, is he gonna lose an eye? Is he gonna? I don't know how you could lose an eye getting a dragon, but I was like, oh, he's probably gonna lose an eye. But then the other thing, I know you can't say yes or no, but the other thing was the last ring has no legs at all. I was like, oh my God, never mind. Oh, I was going to say
That's
something.
Certainly a statement.
Okay, listen. I was going to say what I thought it was, but like the moment I almost said it, I was like, that might be offensive. So I don't know if I should say it.
Is there a non-offensive way you could say it?
No. No, okay. When she said the last ring has no legs at all, I wondered if she was talking about Bran.
Yeah, some people suggested that might be what she
Oh, okay, then I don't feel so bad.
Yeah.
Then I could be in the company of some other fucked up people. But I didn't understand, like, because before that she had some sort of, like, what insect was that? She was talking about how many legs. Millipede, right. So all the legs and the eyes that she says she doesn't think it sees. And when Alicent asked her, why do you think that is? She says, some things are not meant for us to understand.
Yeah.
And it's when Alicent's talking to Aemon that she makes the comment about the rings, but I don't remember if it was like, if it could be connected to anything they were saying, the way he'll have to close an eye. Could be. I don't remember. Do you know what that means? The ring has no legs.
Yes.
You suck. You can't tell us? Is it spoilery to know?
No, it's extremely spoilery.
Oh my god! Oh, see?
If they're really intending it to apply,
okay.
it could.
I'm super excited. Okay. So it's not about Bran.
No, I mean, maybe it has a double meaning, but no.
Okay, good. I don't even know what it's about, but I'm like, it's going to be way better than Bran. Oh, I still can't believe they did that. Why'd you think I came all this way? Ugh, shut up. All right. Alicent goes and snitches to the king that they were teasing Aemon. Okay, so, sorry, we had a Nico attack. When Alicent goes and tells the king what happened, the bullying, to Aemon, and she tries to place all the blame on Rhaenyra's boys, and he's like, have you met our son? Because I bet it was Aegon. See, people think he don't be paying attention. He's like, I know, he's a little shit. It sounds like an Aegon thing. And then she brings up the whole those ain't Laenor's babies discussion in front of fucking Eddard, whoever the fuck this Stark is. Like, Eddard, I don't know who is Baratheon Stark, I don't know who he is, but why are you bringing this shit up in front of mixed company?
She doesn't care. She is shouting this shit out in front of everybody all the time.
She is the worst, the absolute worst.
I thought you were going to point out that she calls the boys savages.
I didn't hear that word in this conversation. I heard her call them plain feature.
Yeah. She says, your grandsons are a menace. And he says, but they're younger than Aemond. And she says, well, they're savages, so it's not surprising.
Y'all are still riding for this chick. Okay. Right.
And Viserys is like, has he even done a count of the dragons? Because, like, he's like whipping out, his mental, like, where did they think they found these rando dragons? There aren't any rando dragons.
Was he basically victim blaming? He was like,
yes.
He was like, if he was
Why
stupid enough
so stupid
to believe they had a dragon form, then that's where his dumbass gets.
How many spare dragons do we have?
Oh my god. He's so, like, again, Viserys is going to say and or do the wrong thing if it means not having the hard conversation. He don't want to have this conversation. He don't want to deal with this. And, like, on the one hand, I get it because this is, like, stupid kid shit. But at the same time, he takes the same approach to, like, the war and the Stepstones.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to eat my sandwich. Yeah, exactly.
And I think his favorite thing to do, as he does right here, is make people say shit to his face. Because he knows that 50% of the time they're not going to.
Right.
And then he won't have to deal with it at all.
Like with Lionel later.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
He's like, no, tell me what your problem is. Really.
And then, to quiet the conversation, and I get it, because we're not supposed to see color. I get it. This is one of those situations where they were white in the books. They made him black in the show. Nobody has brought that up. Ever. Right. It's not been a thing. So this is one of those situations. We're supposed to treat it like the time that Jaime raped Cersei. The show is like, it didn't happen. So we're not supposed to
fantasy world.
Yeah. Right. So we're supposed to think, we're supposed to not see the color here. And we're only supposed to think that this is an issue because these kids don't look like Valerians. Like, old Valerians, right? Like the white hair that Targaryens and Valerians have, right? Yeah. We're not supposed to think that this is like a race thing. So I want to preface what I'm about to say with saying I absolutely understand that. Yet and still, I was like, please, old white man, do not bring up animals to make your point. Please don't compare us to horses.
Well.
And that's exactly what he did. I was like, oh, Viserys, when do you die? Because you were really working my nerves. And then this bitch was like, how do you know it was the silver horse? Did you see it? Fuck your horse, dummy. And then she was like, when do you die, please? So I can get on with this coup. Because... But
and he forbids her to speak of it
again.
Yet again.
I was about to say. She pulled a Damon. Every time he got banished, he just came back. She was like, you told me not to speak on it, so I held my tongue. Until now. Now is all I want to talk about.
Right.
So she goes ranting to Sir Criston, who's still a bitch. And when
he forbids her to speak of it again. She immediately goes in the hallway, ranting loudly to Criston in front of 2 other guards and various other people.
Okay, so I'm so glad you said that, because I have a feeling like, I think I've sensed some frustration with people who've read the books and the desire of people like me who haven't read the book for like smarter play from Rhaenyra. And I think some of it might be, well, we know how it all ends. Everybody's going to lose. And we all get that. There's not really going to be any winners here, especially my dragons. But anyway, if you have picked a side, you kind of want to see your side do well. And I'm getting a little frustrated the way I was getting towards the end of Game of Thrones, where I was just like, I thought Tyrion was a mastermind. What the fuck are we doing? This ain't masterminding, you know? And so there's a part of me that understands, well, I know things. Like, I know this woman is absolutely thinking you're going to murder her fucking children when you become queen. I get that she knows things about you that you don't know she knows. Like, I understand I'm operating from a place of information Rhaenyra doesn't have. But at the same time, we're all operating under the rules the show set. And how this universe works. And how being at court works, right? And it's like, why are we doing things like having these loud-ass conversations, you know?
Yeah.
Like... Yeah. To the point where I'm convinced at this point that Tayla, is that her name? Tyla? I'm like, is she going to be important later? Because they've name dropped her twice, and I feel like she's been in every room when something was going down.
Oh, yeah. Inviting herself in. I noticed that, too.
Yeah.
This time they made a point of her name.
So it's like stuff like this where it's like, how is Rhaenyra... If Alicent is literally, like you just said, walking down the halls... yelling about, you know, her accusations against this and her frustrations with the king. Like, how does Rhaenyra not know this? And I don't know.
Yeah. I think she does know that people are talking about her and that it's becoming a problem, but to some degree, Rhaenyra in particular is isolated because of her position. So I don't know.
And how, like, it's so frustrating though. I agree. I could see that, but then it's frustrating when it's like Alicent should be even more isolated, but she's not. Like, she has a seat at the fucking table and has like say to a point.
Right. Because she's picked up tutors. You know, Alicent had her father to some degree. He was not a great father and he scared the shit out of her and he was abusive, but he was teaching her court intrigue from the time she was a child. She was mixing in the court while Rhaenyra was not. Mm-hmm. And then she lost Otto, but she gained Larys who is a spider, and he's been feeding her. He's for certain underhanded and has all these things going on, and he's got other people working for him, and Criston has half of the guards and whatever. And
There.
Rhaenyra just doesn't have that kind of network.
See, she needs Daemon.
That's who she needs.
She needs Daemon. She needs somebody who has been saying this shit since day fucking one. Oh my God, please, Daemon, hurry
That's
up.
right.
Start killing some of these weird looking kids. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. That wasn't nice.
He would literally just take one look at them and just push them down the stairs.
Yeah, he's like, fuck them.
Are you serious?
He's like,
Get out.
fuck them Targaryens. He don't like them Targaryens. So when Criston calls Rhaenyra a spoiled cunt here, notice that, like, again, I'm sorry, I'm going to beat this dead horse. This is why I feel like 2 episodes in between would have been cool, because I was like, oh, it's like that? And again, I want to see, and I guess, I like what you just said. I know that she has been saying for episodes now, since she was a child, that she was alone at court. She feels alone. She feels alone. They keep driving that home. So I understand that it's like Criston listens to her. Larys has been advising her. They seem to have her back as much as they can in their positions. So I get that that's the cling, you know, the appeal. But I do kind of want to know how we get to this point where you could just call the princess a spoiled cunt in front of the queen, and she treats it like this isn't the first time. Like, she's like, what'd I tell you about? Like, that whole, like, shoulder, that thing. But notice when he apologizes, how he apologizes. He says, that was beneath me.
Exactly.
And it has shit to do with, maybe he shouldn't say that about Rhaenyra. It ain't had shit to do with, maybe I shouldn't have said that to you, to your ears. It was, that's beneath me. And my already bullshit, tarnished honor that I think means something. That I use to excuse all of my bad actions. Fuck you.
Right. Yeah, I think they have made it very clear that they're a party of 2 or 3 people who believe that they're the standards for honor and decency, and to kind of refer to what the showrunners have said is that Alicent is supposed to be basically a woman Trump voter. And if you're offended by that, why are you listening to this podcast? Please get out and unsubscribe.
Thank you.
These women they get upset about superficial politeness and believe that everything is honorable and decent if it advances their cause. It's like in The Handmaid's Tale, Serena Joy puts together, she's the one that designs the whole program, and then she gets upset when her finger gets cut off because she didn't follow the rules. Right. She thinks she's the exception. And Alicent is kind of the same way, where they're sitting there talking treason 24 hours a day in full view of everyone. Everyone can hear them. And later, like a maid sees her coming down the hallway and laughs at her because she knows what she's seething about, because she makes it so clear.
Yeah.
And then, but when Criston calls her a cunt, she's like,
right.
Oh, that was too far. Okay, but murder and abuse are not too far. No, because it advances their cause of, quote, decency.
I've forgotten, I'm glad you said that, because I've forgotten that Olivia Cook, got it. Really hope that's her name, who plays adult Alicent, had said that she was, early notes, coaching, discussions about this character was, she's like a woman Trump voter.
Right.
Yeah.
And even though I sympathize with the position that she was originally put in, she's hit this point where, sure, she's had 10 years of paranoia, thinking that every day this prophecy that her father gave her was going to happen because they're making it happen. But also she's had 10 years to mature and observe for herself and see how Rhaenyra has been reaching out in little ways and whether Rhaenyra is really this person. But because Alicent decided 10 years ago that Rhaenyra is a lying whore, which she calls her in the book repeatedly, she's not this mild, even this mild. that's how she looks at her. She's decided that Rhaenyra is beneath her. So even when she's offered that olive branch later to solve the whole problem and pull herself out of this spiral,
right,
she refuses it because she's decided Rhaenyra is trash.
Because because at that point, I know we're skipping ahead, but at that point it becomes about what they were actually circling back to the scene we were just talking about, this idea that Rhaenyra gets away with things. And it's not, like you just said, if you accept this offer, which makes all the sense in the world, then you would think if you don't want, and again, it goes back to this thing for me where it's like, you have some measure of power. You are the queen, especially when you're the queen to a king like Viserys. Do you know what I mean? You probably have more power than she deserves. Exactly. Yeah. And so I don't know. Again, it does go back to, though, like, that solves the problem. You would not have to worry about your children being murdered if you really believe that's what's going to happen. But that doesn't punish Rhaenyra, and that's what this is really about.
Exactly.
And Rhaenyra has to be punished because she enjoys sex, and you never have.
Yes. And if you look at the current state of politics, it's very much the same thing.
Yes.
That and going into Westeros, if Alicent really looked at the situation, her determination to not accept this deal and to make sure that Rhaenyra is punished means that Rhaenyra will probably die, her children will probably die, and Alicent's children probably will also die because they'll all get sucked into this conflict. Like, it's not going to happen smoothly. They're not just going to put Aegon on the throne and everybody go, oh, okay.
Right. I don't, that's the, and it's what Rhaenys was saying last week.
Yeah.
Like, she understands that once it comes to a head, however we get there, whenever it happens, people are going to die.
Right.
And they put their son in the middle of this. Look, I'm surprised Laenor made it out of the episode. I don't expect him to make it out of the next one. Also, another thing, like, this just occurred to me, sorry. I don't like the fact that we didn't get to see, like, any kind of, so far. Like, I like Rhaenys. I like Corlys. Their daughter just died. Like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Like, that, I don't know. Maybe we like these characters more than some people who feel perfectly fine with just like, oh, we didn't need to see any of that stuff. Well, not maybe all of it, but why not? Like,
a little bit
of it. Like,
we should have some emotional punch.
And I think that, like, book readers are really anxious to get to, like, the dragon fighting, which, cool. I love dragons too, but I know all my dragons are going to die.
I'm not. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, I know it's going to be awesome, but at the same time, I'm in no rush. Slow down, motherfuckers. Give me 2 episodes of just, like, fucking and friendship, okay? Can I just get that? Can I get 2 episodes of a black woman on a fucking dragon seducing the prince? Come on.
3 dragon deaths or some fucking.
Yes.
But that.
Yes. I want to see how the fuck Lena and Damon came to be. I wanted, they could do it. And I know it would be great because this episode was great. The acting is great. They've been fucking knocking it out of the park every week. I don't think those, 2 extra episodes would have been bad. It would have been great. But, so, decency will prevail because, as we pointed out, they have appointed themselves the moral authority. Aegon is fucking nasty. I don't know why. We have to continue, like, with boys. Like, and as a mother to a boy, and you have a boy, so I know you get it. Like, I have to catch myself and not, like, oh, men suck, because I'm raising a boy. But then,
you catch yourself? No.
Yeah, I catch myself. I try to. I'm like, oh my God, boys are terrible. And then I remember, oh my God, girl, you got one in the next room. Stop it. But it's shit like this. Why?
Right.
Why? Why does he have to be this way? Why?
Right.
It's not that he's jerking off. That's lovely. It's human. That's fine. I get it. Why is he standing in the suicide window, like jerking off to the bells, to the morning bells, to the wakey eggs and bakey bells? What are you doing?
And when people say this show has no humor, how is it not humorous that Alicent just said that honor and decency will prevail? Smash cut to her son homelandering over King's Landing.
Oh my god. I was like, what?
And then she ignores it.
She observes it for a ridiculously uncomfortable amount of time. It's like, sis, clear your throat, go back in, go out, come back in, close the door loudly. Oh. Yeah, I don't know if this is in the books or not, but
no.
Yeah, they just made him super fucking weird. Like,
literally
listen,
never need to see those little buns ever again.
Ever. They didn't, and it's like, look, I was already rooting against this kid. I don't want this fucking kid to be the king. You didn't have to do, like, I already didn't like him. Like, and I thought, okay, before this, I was like, oh, you're not being fair, right? Because they're just kids, right. And, you know, and so far he hadn't really done anything. But then we get this scene, and then later him leering at those girls. But then again, it's like, well, he's a teenage boy, and, you know, kids, right. You know. So I keep trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but there's no good reason for this, other than he's a psychopath.
He doesn't want to be the king. He has been just party time princing it up because he assumed that he would never sit on the throne.
Yeah. He doesn't want it. Now, I bet you that motherfucking weird-looking school tutor shooter does. That motherfucker is a problem, okay?
It's hard to know what he wants.
It
definitely involves death.
That motherfucker's gonna be a problem. So she flips the fuck out when he's basically like, I like when she was like, he's your brother, he's a twat.
And everybody's like, true?
He was like, it was funny, relax. But yeah, like you said, he has no interest in this shit. And she was like, if she thinks you're a challenge, he's like, then I won't challenge. And then that's when she's just like, you are the challenge. Just by living and breathing and existing, you are the challenge.
Grabs his face and screams in it. Now, what kind of kink do you think you develop if your mom bends over your hidden jerking off and screams in your face? I just want to know.
I hope not. None.
Something really messed up, right?
That's not. This is how we get a Joffrey. This is weirdo shooting women with crossbows. I don't know.
I mean, so she really hasn't done her job either, because what Otto said was either cleave to Rhaenyra, which she has not done.
Yeah.
She's done the opposite. Or prepare Aegon for the throne. And this feels like the first time he's ever heard this possibility.
Oh, absolutely. I was going to say that. It makes no sense to me. And then you see her repeating Otto's behavior towards her.
Right.
When she's like, how are you nearly a man grown and so short-sighted? And I'm like, what happened to prepping him? Like, why?
Right.
Like, it absolutely played like they've never had this conversation before.
Yeah. And nor has he ever had any real lessons on this, because historically he's just been playing around with the help and chasing skirts and bullying his brother and riding around on Dreamfire and underage drinking and no one. He's had no lessons.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. She didn't try. And thank you for bringing that up about cleaving to Rhaenyra. I know there are people who are going to be like, whoa, this is unrealistic. I don't know. Maybe it's my personality. I think it's unrealistic that 10 years went by and they've not had one fucking conversation. Like, we used to be best friends. Even if I thought, like, I'm supposed to believe for 10 fucking years she never once was like, bitch, why didn't you tell me?
Right.
But I'm assuming Rhaenyra knows she knows about Criston. Because at this point, after what Criston did, and then for him to be appointed her personal guard and the way they be walking around thick as thieves, I'm assuming Rhaenyra at least suspects that Alicent knows what happened between her and Criston.
Right.
But you mean to tell me there's never been a conversation about it between the two of them? There's never been a conversation. Like, in 10 years, she never thought, maybe I should ask my best friend if she plans on killing my kids. Like, I just find it weird.
Right.
And
Can
I know
we work this out some way?
It's just so weird to me. And I guess what we're supposed to believe that with, you know, the same with Criston, that it just fucked them up that bad, that it's been a 10-year grudge.
Right.
I mean, I guess.
She's just supposed to be, I suppose, a very simple person with a set of simple morals, and you break one of them or two, because not only is she a slut, but a liar.
Mm-hmm.
So now she can never trust her again because she's the literal devil. And I guess I do know some people like that.
But now, but now we gotta lose dragons over it, and I'm mad.
We gotta tear down the kingdom because you can't get over a lie.
But she tells him, everyone knows in their bones that you will be king, and he's like, I will?
I didn't know that.
Like, okay, I guess. Lena and Vhagar.
Yay.
So, yeah, I saw a photo of her on a dragon, and it looked big. And I remember posting the photo, and I was like, who this? And then folks were like, if you really want to know. And I was like, no, I don't. Because I knew, like, I thought it was her, because it's really blurry. But I definitely didn't know what the dragon was. And I remember folks making comment, like, on how big it is. But to me, because it's just like a screenshot, I was just like, I mean, all the dragons are big. Like, I couldn't.
They're all big, yeah.
Yeah. But holy shit, seeing it and the way they reveal it, it's just Daemon looking up. And it's like something out of like a Marvel movie, like when the aliens arrive in the city and in the shadows over the skyscrapers.
Right. And there's like an airplane, but then there's the ship.
Yes, exactly. That's what it was like. And Caraxes was the airplane. And then it was just this giant mothership, which was Vhagar.
Yes. God, I love the whole... Everything about Vhagar is so rad. The fact that she's constantly like rumbling and groaning and because she's so freaking huge. She's like a 787, you know, and just it just feels like the air is like shimmering around her. She's just ridiculous.
Speaking of Marvel, honestly, you know what it reminded me of? Like this, I think like the first time we get a look at her, like, you know, Daemon looks up and we see like her long neck and it kind of spans like the length of her body. It reminded me of in that first Marvel movie, I think they were called the Chitauri, like those aliens, and they had those long worm things.
Yeah.
And because they were so long, it's like the body every part of the body like didn't move at the same time at the same way, if that like in a ripple effect. Like it felt like she was so big, like her head was at one altitude and like this was that, and it had to like keep up and like catch up like a wave. Yeah. And the ropes. What the fuck? I was like, that makes sense, because I feel like if she has shit on her, she just has shit on her. Who's cleaning Vhagar? Nobody.
Who's going to take it off?
Nobody.
Yeah.
Who's going to try? Nobody.
What if she likes it?
Yes.
You know, and you try to clean off like an old rope ladder, and she's like,
and now you're
like,
a
no,
kebab. Yes.
just
No.
keep it. Yeah.
No. Yes. Those
It's
ropes.
like when I take my cat to the vet and they put like a little bandage around his arm, and then I try to take it off and he tries to murder me.
Yes.
And then I'm just like, the bandage is your problem now.
It's yes, the hair will just grow around that bitch. I will never try to take that shit off of you. If it becomes infected, that's on you, dude. And I won't touch that.
I want to live. Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, I was like, those ropes could be like 100 years old. We don't know how old those ropes are.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
leave them on
Vicinia
her.
might have put those ropes on
Uh-huh.
there. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not touching the ropes. And then they're doing like fucking circus tricks and like a fucking air show.
Right.
For the people of Pentos.
Like, yay!
Now, I don't know how we're supposed to take this. I feel like we're supposed to just take it as it is. But I don't think. But I feel like we have to mention it, or we would be a good podcast. They're not. I don't think they're confirming that Daemon is immune to fire, like how Daenerys was.
I don't think they're confirming that. I think they're just playing around it, and he's probably just played around with fire and knows that he can go through it at a certain angle or something. Yeah. Like walking over coals if you do it really fast or something.
And Caraxes kind of felt like he didn't appreciate that either, though. He was kind of like, what the fuck?
He had something to say about it in a really squealy way, like he does.
Smoke in my face and shit.
Like, bitch.
Yeah.
Cyrex never did this to me.
Daemon is offered a Pentos residency. It's like Vegas.
Yeah.
They're like, you just live here now. You put on a few shows, and we treat you like a king. It's like his Vegas residency. And
it kind of sounded like an amazing deal. How can I get one of these?
Right? Well, first you have to have 3 dragons, maybe 4.
Well.
But this is, the proposal that this, I don't know who this guy is.
It's Reggio Heratus, so he's the Prince of Pentos.
Ah, okay. I was going to say, I think he's a prince, yes. So he's like, and it's basically just like, seriously, it's like a Vegas residency, but also protection,
Yeah, dragon
like
in residence.
Yes, just several nuclear bombs just chilling on your property. Who's going to fuck with you? But this is amongst several times that this comes up in the episode that the Triarchy are once again on the rise, and this time they have support from Dorne.
Yeah.
So that's a thing.
Right. The Triarchy is back on their bullshit.
Yes.
And Dorne is not yet part of the Seven Kingdoms.
Right.
So they're flirting with the Triarchy.
Lena ain't with this plan, though. She wants to go home. She wants to die a dragon rider's death, not that of a fat lord. And Daemon is kind of like, I like just sitting here reading books. And with a little bit of a dad bod.
Right.
He's like, we
That
don't have to
shoulder-length haircut.
He's like, we don't have to worry about successions and this and that and all that bullshit. And she's like, nah.
Yeah. She's like, I thought we were team Old Valyria.
Right.
And you're sitting here telling me you want to be a merchant prince, and I'm saying I want to go back and be Old Valyria.
She looked at him like Rhaenyra looked at Criston Cole when he was like, leave your dragon and come on a run with me. She was like, what?
I didn't pick up Vagar to sit here in this Bravosi castle.
That's why when she walked up on the beach, Vagar was bored.
Right.
Oh my god.
What else is she going to do? She's just sitting there. She's like, I picked up Vagar to go burn some motherfuckers.
Right? To have adventures and shit. Not to sit here and pop out babies and just be here. No. Mm-mm. But, So, how to train your incel. So, Criston is toxically training Aegon and Aemon in the courtyard. And Viserys is watching and he says to Lord Lionel, he goes, "This is the stuff." And I was like, stuff? Stuff? That word feels completely out of place in this universe.
Very anachronistic. Yeah,
right?
I don't know, but like, yeah, this is the stuff.
It's like, oh my god,
what,
when do you die?
Like a Pepsi commercial?
What? This is the stuff. It's like, what do you know about stuff? Define stuff. What? I'm sorry. I know it's a little nitpicky thing, but I was like, I need to go look up the origins of that word.
It was very comical. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's so simple. Harwin steps
Two grandpas sitting there watching their kids.
Two grandpas. Oh, so true. And everybody knows it. And then the other dad walks in, Harwin. And he steps in and he has something to say about the way Criston is basically showing favoritism in training Aemond and Aegon over Jacaerys and Viserys.
Yeah, and he definitely is.
Yeah. He's like, why don't you stop being a little bitch, leave these kids alone, or train them all equally.
Right.
And so there's like there was like a little sparring match between Aegon and Jace, and Jace came roaring back.
He did.
Like,
he did.
I was like, okay, all right. He got that dragon in him. and that bone breaker.
Aegon might be bigger, but he is extremely scrawny, and Jace is built a little more solid.
Mm-hmm. And he just jerked off that morning, so his energy's low.
You have to save the energy.
Yes,
for later.
And when Criston makes a smart remark implying that Harwin is those boys' daddy, Harwin beats the shit out of him. The whole time I was like, that's right. Beat his ass. Beat his ass. I knew there would be dire consequences. I didn't give a fuck. I was like, yes. Kill him, please.
He needed his ass beat. Yeah.
That was long overdue. He
right.
needs more ass whippings, honestly. That wasn't
well, and he did it intentionally. I thought it was
yes.
Criston gives so much away because when
He's
Harwin stops Aegon, he is. When Harwin stops Aegon from continuing to hit Jace, who's on the ground, because why? That's completely unnecessary. So all he does is bend his arm back and take his sword away. And Criston says, you forget yourself. That's the prince. How dare you touch... and Aegon's like, how dare you touch me? Meanwhile, 30 seconds ago, before the match started, Criston grabbed Jace by the breastplate and dragged him across the yard and plunked him in front of Aegon.
Yes.
And then, as they start the match, he's doing some Little League dad shit where he's commanding Aegon to keep advancing.
Yep.
But he's looking at Harwin, waiting to see how far he can push Aegon into bullying Jace so that Harwin will stop it, so that he can make his little comment that he's been saving up for God knows how long.
And
in front of the king. And
this is where I'm just like, it's little L's like this. Like, why she has better coaching. Rhaenyra has nobody in her ear.
That's right.
That needs to fucking change. That really needs to fucking change.
And Lionel won't speak of the matter because it's just too beyond the pale.
These honorable motherfuckers...
Arwen doesn't have... Yeah.
These honorable motherfuckers are the worst.
Right. He's the true honorable motherfucker. But at least Harwin needed 4 Kingsguard to pull him off of punching Criston's face in.
He should have killed him.
I did appreciate that.
And then I just have here in my notes, Viserys is useless at the end of the scene. Rhaenyra listens as Lionel yells at Harwin about what he just did.
Yeah.
And it's through this that, like, it's clear. I mean, this is not the first time that she's heard this, right? That people suspect. She has to know that.
Oh, no. Yeah, she was very familiar with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, this was so frustrating, again, because they're still, to me, in this conversation, Lionel was like, he gets it. It's like he read the book. Right? Like,
right.
You know, and how serious this is. And,
yeah.
and
he understands the whole picture.
The whole fucking
and all
picture.
the consequences.
And it's
not this that he's worried about himself.
Yes, he's
or
like,
her.
your honor. And he's like,
yeah.
This is beyond that, fool. Like, this flimsy shield is the only thing keeping you from being beheaded. Like, you know.
Right.
So,
and Rhaenyra. And the children.
And the children. So, I'm... It's like... Again, I have sympathy because Rhaenyra hasn't had anybody, and Alicent has Laris and fucking that bitch, you know. But God, it's like how this. It's been 10 years and 3 kids. You have to have seen this. You have to have known that you have weakened your position in a sense. And it's like, you know who your dad is. You know what I'm saying? You know the kind of king he is, the kind of man he is. So that's another reason, like, I feel like I just needed, like, 2 episodes so I can just fully understand where Rhaenyra is as a non-book reader. Yeah. I just need to know why she's not doing certain things.
Right. Well, and they don't really flesh it out there either. Yeah. I think
things.
She's just relying on the fact that you can't openly speak of the situation or it's treason. And, frankly, in the book, Viserys, somebody does speak up about it, and Viserys has her tongues taken out. So, he is actively, you know, taking moves against people.
And that's what I mean. She is kind of banking on her position. Like, well, they can know, but what can they really do about it? Like, she's kind of, like, kind of coasting on that. And I guess I just feel like if you already know that your position is challenged, that nobody wanted you to have it to begin with, like, she may not... I don't know if anybody has said to her... No, that's not true. Rhaenys has. I was going to say, I didn't know if anybody ever said to her as plainly as it's been said to Alicent last week by Otto, when he dies, they're going to make they're going to want your son, and it's going to... People are going to fight, right? It's going to be a problem. But yeah, Rhaenys told her that. So it's like...
Yeah, one time. But she was not ready to hear it yet.
No, she wasn't. So she
didn't get 10 years of it.
Oh my girl, you're weakening your position, and I hate to see it. I literally hate to see it.
Yeah.
Also, but this thing with Harwin, like, he kind of annoyed me too when Lionel was like, the king even, like, refuses what he sees with his own eyes. Like, he denies it. And Harwin is like, I wish my own father had the same blindness. And I was like, bitch, grow up, okay? You have been fucking the princess. You done put 3 babies in her. And they're calling you on your shit. And now you want to be like, I wish my daddy treated me like he treats law. What the fuck? Shut up.
How long do you want him to not say something?
Right.
Till you have 6 kids with this lady?
Right. I'm like, what are we doing?
He's been looking the other way.
How many more kids do you want to have, dummy, before somebody says something? And then Rhaenyra just goes running back to her room. She tells drunk Laenor to keep his ass home. He thinks he's going to run off to the steps.
Oh my god.
He reminded me of, like when you're married to somebody who, like, he's like 32, he still is trying to be a rapper.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, dude, I'm going to need you to go down and get a job with the city and get some benefits because, yeah, he thinks he's about to go off. And I get it. I think the episode, again, The Rogue Prince, seeing him, I think I said at the time, it was nice seeing a dragon rider be excited and like, you know, like use its dragon in battle and like love it. I like that we got to see that part of him because you understand what he meant when he's like, I'm a soldier, like I'm a, you know, what he misses, because we got to see that. So we understand this loss for him, just like we got to see what Joffrey meant to him in a short scene. So again, dead horse, if y'all had just given us a little bit more, I feel like we'd have felt some of the stuff that happens in this episode a little bit more. But anyway, yeah, Laena wants to go out in them streets.
Yes. Yeah, and although I completely sympathize with his position and wanting to get out in the mix, for like nobody wants to hear this, even regularly, like in a regular life, from your husband when you've just had a baby. Much less, you know, he comes in all drunk and raucous and spreading her personal business about her boobs leaking to Carl, and like she's like, Carl isn't in the polycool, like he's
right.
Like,
she's like, who even is
outsiders?
Right, thank you.
Right, who is this guy?
She's like, we will not be naming any babies after Carl.
Did you just meet him? Please don't get his face punched in, you know? And she's like, this is not the intimacy we have. We need to talk about all this stuff. And he even sasses back to her when she's like, there are these vile accusations and insinuations. And he's like, insinuations, are they? And she's like, well, hold up.
Right, like, why are you acting brand new?
Right, this is the agreement we have.
Yeah.
Are you in this or not? Because if you are, you have to accept that these are insinuations.
Yes, and that's,
like, I know as well as you what's going on.
And I like that, you know, she tells him like they're our sons.
Yeah.
Period.
Right.
And that's really all it boils down to. Like, we have got, like, we will never say otherwise.
Right. This
so
is what it is. And
exactly.
You signed on for this job. And yeah, it might be fun to go sail out and take your dragon and go kick some ass again in the Stepstones. But we're in the shit right now.
Right now. Yep. So in this, when he's still running his mouth, he mentions a why am I drawing a blank? Tyroshi? General with a purple beard. So I like perked up because I haven't read this book that that this show is based on, but I've read the series that Game of Thrones is based on. That and you know, and he will never finish. Just so we're all clear, I'm all caught up on that. And book readers from that series know that in the books, Dario was described as having a purple beard, having dyed his hair beard. It was way more eccentric looking than the show did with old or new Dario. And knowing that though that this is set like way before then, I was just curious. I was like, that's either a kind of like, you know, wink, you know, in universe gag, or maybe this is an actual character. And I looked up Tyroshi General Purple Beard. And there is one named, I don't know how you say this, Racalio? Rendoon, I believe. Yep. Now, listen, I want to read this blurb about his appearance and character because I loved every bit of this. So, well, to be clear, when Laenor brings him up, he says that he's a Tyroshi general, purple beard, he dresses as a woman. A giant. He calls him a giant, too. Okay. Racalio was 6.5 feet tall. So not a giant, just really tall. He had a stooped posture and a gait, however, since one shoulder was higher than the other. He often dyed his hair and beard purple with orange streaks. Racalio enjoyed sweet scents, bathing himself in lavender or rose water. The man sometimes dressed as a woman and pretended to be a whore. Who doesn't? He was gluttonous and a drunkard. He spoke a dozen dialects of High Valyrian and was notoriously foul-mouthed. He was open-handed, freely giving plunder to his men or coins to beggars. Fierce in battle, the Captain General was ambidextrous with his swords. He threw bones before battles to decide which god he would sacrifice to in hopes of victory. Ricalio sometimes ordered his dozen wives to beat him. A contradictory...
What a freak. Future Aemond.
Yes. Wait. Here's the last sentence. It's probably one of my favorite sentences in history, but as a description of a character. A contradictory person. Ricalio loved kittens, but not cats. Pregnant women, but not children. And that's it. That's all we know about him. Pregnant women, but not children. He's like a Republican.
Whoop.
Oh, God. So anyway.
No pregnancy, but not birth.
Yeah. I want some kids and fuck them kids. So. But I just love that. I was like, what an interesting fucking character. And that's it. Like, I didn't read anything about him, like, the way this wiki is set up. This is just under appearance and character.
Yeah.
And then if you want to know, like, things, like how they lived and died and things, I didn't read any of that just in case this is somebody who's important later. But I thought it was interesting that he was mentioned, again, because I wondered if it was just kind of like a thing. But apparently that is also just a thing over in...
Tyrosh.
Tyrosh. I was like, not Bravo. So I was trying to think of all the places I know. But, like, the dyeing of the beards. Like, those colors. Because, like, if you do... And again, don't do too much digging if you don't want to get spoiled on anything. But, like, if you do, like, a purple beard Game of Thrones, like, search, like, I feel like there was, besides Dario Naharis, I feel like there was one other character that was mentioned to have also sometimes had a purple beard. So, I just thought that was interesting. All right, where were we? Oh, I just want to point out in this scene, Emma, they looked so much like Millie. There was just a moment where I don't remember what he said, but their response, like, no words, just their body language, I was like, that is Millie Alcox Rhaenyra right there. Like, I absolutely believe that she grew into this person sitting here because that was incredible. And there was, like, a few times when they spoke that I thought, oh, the man. Have you read or seen anything on how that worked? Because I know that Emma was cast first.
Right.
And that so was Olivia, and so that the characters were kind of crafted around these two actors. Mm-hmm. Who filmed stuff first? So I would imagine that maybe... Do you know if, like, Millie and Emily had anything to work with? In terms of, like, watching how the older two portrayed their characters?
Just from, I don't know this for sure, but I remember long ago when they were doing these outdoor scenes, and some future scenes that I believe will be in the next episode. Mm-hmm. Because they couldn't avoid being outside. They did some beach work, but mostly they were inside. But I think that I want to say that they filmed some of the older people acting first.
That makes sense.
Because it seems like it was a long time ago that they were doing these scenes.
Yeah, I remember when that stuff was, like, leaking and stuff, and people had things to say. And again, I am team, I've loved all the wigs. I don't have a problem with Millie's wig, Emma's wig. I don't know, I'm sure Olivia has one on right now. Like, I liked Laenor's. I have not had a problem with any of... I like all of Laena's, all three of them. All their wigs, I like them. I've not had an issue with them.
It's a vibe.
Sarah's like, I might have a little issue.
Yeah, like, you know, maybe some of the, like, maybe the youngest ones weren't the best, but then the older ones in particular.
And I know you didn't like Damon's hair when he cut it.
I didn't like
color.
it short. Yeah.
Okay, so Raina, this is one of Damon's daughters. So they have twin girls, Raina and Bela. Raina is cooking her egg. It's been like 8 years.
So sweet. I'm singing to it.
And Lena comes in and through her conversation, trying to kind of ease her daughter's anxieties over not having a dragon and what that means for her place in the family. There's a couple of things she mentions. Would the Prince of Pentos, would he allow her to stay? Because in their family, she's the only one without a dragon. And if the new baby's has a dragon, then, like, you know, do I have to go? So she's really tying her worth to having this dragon. And then we learn that she feels like Damon ignores her in favor of Bela. And she thinks that it has something to do with the fact that she's not been binded to a dragon yet.
Right.
So I'm just saying, I just feel like I need another episode. I'm just saying. That's
right. It's just really sad, and I don't know why they're playing it like this, because they even cut some scenes that they had in the preview and some of the pictures.
Them, right?
Yeah, like hugging them and talking to them really sweetly, and like, why are we trying to make Damon such a dick? Like, I don't.
And then
I'm not saying that he's not a dick, but like, why do you be like that?
Yeah, it's weird choices. Again, it's like, and you would imagine like stuff gets cut for time or whatever, but I mean, you decide what's worth the time, right? And how that affects the story is absolutely considered. And I think if you're taking out scenes where he's like affectionate to his daughters, or if we don't have any kind of scenes to show the courtship between him and Lena, or what their sex life was like, it's like, because a couple episodes ago, y'all told me his dick don't work. So what is it? Y'all told me he couldn't take a controlling, woman. Like, I was like, because Lena seemed independent and strong-willed. Like, they drove that home. So, like, what was the reason? I'm the Cardi B gift right now. What was the reason?
What was the reason? Right. Why did we have to hit this whole thing so hard, only to turn around and be like, see, that wasn't a problem? Well, how was it not a problem?
Right. So there. So all the people is like, no, the time jump. Again, 2 episodes, y'all. I'll write them for you. Do you want me to? I'll write them. I'll tell you what happened.
I will put in $2.
Her and I will do a dramatic reading.
Yes.
Of what really happened.
I will pull my favorite fanfic and do a dramatic reading of their sex scenes.
Because this is some bullshit, y'all. Seriously. And we learn the only thing that I think I have in my notes from the scene that we haven't mentioned is that Bela's dragon was born to her. So
so her egg hatched, and this egg just didn't hatch.
It never hatched.
So he did put in an egg into their cribs, and one came out and one didn't.
One didn't.
And Lena's like, well, half of them don't. Nature.
Nature. Yeah.
And then what I love, though, is that she tells her, if you want to be a dragon rider, you have to claim that right.
Yeah. Just not born into it. And it's kind of like what, oh my God, her dad, Corliss, was saying about how, they didn't have dragons, and, like, the fortune that his family made, they had to go out there and, like, find it, make it for themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Lena tells Damon news from home that Rhaenyra's had yet another son, and he makes a comment that lets everybody know that everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
We just all know. Lena misses her brother. She's like, as I'm sure you do. And I was like, why would he miss Lena? And then I was like, oh, I get it. Okay, never mind. He misses his old dying brother. And then she basically tells him, dude, you're more than this. She's like, you're no Tyrion.
Yeah.
You're not meant to sit here drinking and reading books. You're supposed to be out there fucking shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's sad that she acknowledges that maybe she wasn't the wife that he wanted, but she's made peace with that now.
And it's like, yeah, I would have liked 2 episodes to see that myself, but okay, sorry.
Right. And it's like, okay, you know, like why did it have to be like that?
I heard somebody say, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's just, they all kind of had a good relationship together, and I'm sure that she did know she was kind of a substitute for Rhaenyra from the beginning. And every couple goes through times like these. Maybe, you know, when you're 9 months pregnant and crabby and everybody's upset and you want to go home. Okay, but why? It's just sad that they're making it seem like they've had this kind of begrudging marriage.
Yeah, I was curious about that decision. It felt lazy to me as well. Like when she says, I know I'm not the wife that you wanted, but I made my peace with that, to the point where even he like cuts her off, but not to, you know, like she says that and then he's like, Lena, and she goes, but I've made my peace with it. And it's like, well, fuck, we haven't. Like, what the fuck? Like, and why are you letting him off the hook so easy? I get it. You guys want to just like move on, but it's so lazy. It's like, why? Like, how do we go from this fiery flirtation on the dance floor to what somebody described in a video I saw earlier, which I don't agree with, and I thought it made me feel even worse about what happened to her, to this marriage in crisis, or marriage falling apart, is how they described this. And I was like, I guess, because she wanted to leave. It didn't.
I don't know that it's falling apart. It was just a disagreement.
Right, that's what I was about to say. This didn't feel like it's not like she said, well, if you stay, I'm leaving. But there was no ultimatums. Right. It felt like this is a couple been together for 10 years through 3 kids, and they're discussing their next move.
Right.
And she
they're
seemed
working
to be
through it.
And she seemed to be winning, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah. He was about to crack.
So I don't know how this is a marriage falling apart.
Yeah, I don't see that.
But
I think they're still dedicated to each other in their own way, even if we're not looking at the book context.
Yeah. Okay, so then we're at the High Council meeting back in Westeros. There's some issues going on in the Riverlands, and the Queen is like, well, that's a Riverlands problem. We don't need to be involved in that. And Rhaenyra disagrees. And she mentions the conflict between those 2 families, where that little boy murked that dude. The
Brackens and the Blackwoods.
Brackens and the Blackwoods.
At it again.
She's like, look, they don't need any more encouragement to like kill each other. Like, say less, okay? Like, we should probably get involved. And like, she was like, she looks over at Lionel, who then like has her back, right? He's like, well, it won't really cost anything.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then petty bitch over there is like, of course. I'm like, why are you even in the fucking room?
Right. And drinking wine. And all Rhaenyra said was, just ask the country people who have lived in the valley where the boundary markers are. Because these 2 families keep having somebody move them in the fucking night, and then they herd their sheep over the boundary and let them feed on the other side of the boundary. So Rhaenyra is just saying, why don't we send somebody over there and ask the people who actually live in the valley?
She's like, why don't we actually
what's
govern?
What's that going to cost?
She's like, why don't we actually govern?
Right.
And solve a problem.
What could that possibly cost you? Just send a raven and have somebody go look into it. And Alicent is like, ugh.
And she looks at it as, of course, like of course the hand took her side. And it's like, further that whole, if my dad was here, he would have taken my side, which we hear later, like no one has her back, you know, more of that.
Well, that's what she keeps fucking saying, but she's the only one with allies on the court. Just because Lionel agreed that they should, solve
just,
this sheep dispute.
She's so mad that Rhaenyra was fucking for pleasure. She doesn't know what to do with herself. Because it has to be for pleasure, right? Because, like, if it wasn't, she could have found another dude to be baby number 2, right? Like, if he's not going to look like Laena regardless, then, like, she could have done that. But this woman kept going back and popping out this man's babies. So it was good.
I know she's having a good time.
She's
like, I've seen him.
She's like, that motherfucker breaks bones for sure. She's like, I want my bones broken. Meanwhile, Viserys is sitting at the head of the table, literally falling apart, sweating.
Right.
He's always like heaving. She's so miserable, she can't take it. Right. And honestly, I keep thinking she's gonna kill him, but because like they insist,
it wouldn't take much. Just push him over,
right? Like I'm surprised he's lasted this long. Like every episode that he's alive, I'm like, wow, he's gonna be around for like episode 10.
He is also surprised.
Yes, he's looking at his hand like, holy shit. We learned the stepstones are a problem again, or this comes up again, I should say. This time in this meeting, and Rhaenyra says, it's a problem because we left it to be a problem, basically. And the Queen says, because, they're not going to agree, that they can't afford to get involved.
How does she fucking know? Is she the master of coin? No, she isn't.
They're also scared.
Is she getting financial reports? They're also scared what?
They're also scared to talk to, like, the other guys. Like, fucking poor Beesbury. He was, like, two meeting points behind.
Oh, my God. I know, it's true. I think the Blackwoods... And they're like, no, Lord Beesbury.
We have moved
on.
And he looked at that black guy like, why are you talking to me? Like, who are you?
Who are you?
Yes, exactly.
Where's the other one?
They're just so, like, uncomfortable sitting at this table with these two.
Right.
So Rhaenyra makes an offer before the meeting. Alicent actually is the one who adjourns the meeting.
Oh my God! Yeah, well, because Rhaenyra makes a good point. She says the cost of war would be higher, and we need to do something. And Alicent goes, "This meeting is over."
Yeah.
So, which is something that Otto did all the time.
Yep.
They would start making progress, and he's like, "We gotta go." He was horrible, and so is she.
She's so is she. So Rhaenyra makes an offer. She acknowledges that there has been stress between them as of late, and she wants to propose that Jace marry Helena, and they'll rule together. And she also throws in, should Syrax have another clutch of eggs, that Aemon would get his pick.
Yeah.
And Alicent is like...
a perfect offer.
It really is. It's like, oh, so then you won't have to kill my children? Like, I don't understand why she was like I said, we gotta go.
Right.
Viserys is like, oh, this is lovely. This is a great idea.
Because Viserys always wants, like, the nice moment.
Yes. The problem solved for him.
Right. Instead of answering, Alicent stares at Rhaenyra's breasts, which have started leaking, and she says in this voice that's like every woman knows. It's like a shaming voice, but it's tempered in a way that makes it sound like you're concerned. It's like when I am wearing a V-neck and my mom thinks that she can see like even a hint of cleavage, she's like, Sarah. Same thing.
Yeah. Yes.
She's like, Rhaenyra. So in
like
doing
she did it on purpose. Like she was like purposely. Yeah.
Right. How dare you? Yeah. So she's staring at her breasts And then all the men in the room have to turn and stare at her leaking breasts.
Mm-hmm.
And she keeps staring at her breasts until Rhaenyra sits down, ashamed. And Alicent is still standing after the king told everybody to sit down. And stares her down and then is like, we'll think about it. Thanks. Bye.
I cannot wait for Rhaenyra to find her power. Because...
Oh, God.
So, when they're leaving, Viserys once again is like, I think this was a great offer, and she's sincere, and the queen disagrees. She's like, she got nerve. She knows that we're on to her. She wants to marry my only daughter to one of her plain-featured sons, a plain-looking son. Listen, sis, your two boys look like cum stains. Stop. Please stop. You have nerve. You birthed the spawn of that old, decrepit, gray-haired, dusty sperm.
Oh my God. Like, not even your Hightower genes could save them from their own inbreeding.
No.
Horrific.
Seriously. No. Rhaenyra had the good sense to get her nice, clean, Harwin strong stock. And got these beautiful brown-haired, cherub-faced boys. And you mad. Right. You so mad. That you're going to say some stupid shit like that. And your boy up there jerking off in a window. She is Cersei all over again. My only daughter, knowing your fucking son is depraved and you don't fucking care. You still think he deserves to be up there on the throne. Ugh.
And once again, he told her not to speak of this. And where are they? Are they in their chambers? Nope. Are they in the small chamber? No. They're out on the stairs in front of the whole court, sitting down there, commoners, lords, people milling around, half the guard, loud.
Listen. I honestly cannot believe she hasn't killed him yet. But I can also see why. Because honestly, she told him to his face in front of all the people you just mentioned, you can do what you want when I'm dead.
Right.
She said that to the king in front of
the king.
People.
Like he couldn't just arrange it.
Oh my God. And I want to see how we got here. I want to see how we went from, I can't believe my bestie had sex and didn't tell me, to, I am a raging bitch. Holy shit.
And I will not rest until she and her sons are dead.
She's a Disney villain queen. Absolutely. So Sir Lionel wants to quit. And Alicent is like, fuck yeah.
She's like, it's finally happening.
She's so excited. She's like, I can't wait to tell us. But because he can't name, because the king is like, oh, that shit in the yard, boys will be boys, whatever. What else you got?
Right.
But
he calls Harwin young, strong, like he's a boy.
Yes. Well, Viserys is like 200 at this
300
point.
Years old, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Harwin looks like he's like 50.
Yeah. But because, again, to say it is treason.
That's
you
right.
can't be saying it to the king. Like, well, you know, people say your daughter's a whore. Like, you can't do that.
Right. And who is the only person who absolutely refuses to say it?
Exactly.
It's Lionel.
Exactly. So he said, well, if you can't name it, then I can't accept this resignation. So he's like, okay, fine. At least let me escort Harwin back to Harrenhal, where he's going to be, you know, taking over one day. He needs to get settled and know how to run the place and all that. And he allows it, and fucking Alicent is disgusted. She's back there, like, sucking her teeth, rolling her eyes.
Right. She tries to
Loudly.
jump in and be like, we need your reason. Who is this
Yes.
we?
And plain
He doesn't
language.
answer to you at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like this because, like, before, when they walk into the room, this is straight from the hallway discussion, and she's, like, giving him pillows and blankets, and he's like, stop fussing over me, I don't need a blanket. And then the whole Lionel thing happens, and Lionel leaves, and he does need help. He's like, aren't you gonna? And she just leaves him there. I was like, this is elder abuse. I was like, she's ableist.
Right. Help Papa get settled.
Holy
My God.
shit. I was like, she probably just leaves him in the bathtub for like hours on end. She's terrible.
Losing fingers.
Jesus Christ. So Alicent goes to her quarters and has a kiki with Laris, and we see that this has like been a regular thing. Like, oh, I started without you, and yeah.
She comes in and takes her shoes off.
Mm-hmm. They're comfy. They're very close.
Yeah.
He mentions how, she talks about Lionel no longer being able to give unbiased, counsel to her husband. And she, kind of laments that her dad's not there. And then he points out, well, your dad wouldn't have been able to been impartial either. And then she says, what's at the heart of the matter? Well, that, and besides, her friend gets the fuck for pleasure. She's like, at least he would have been partial to me. Right or wrong, he would have told me I'm right.
Right. And then she's like, is no one there to take my son? The whole King's Landing is on your side. You have like 14 eyes right in your face 24 hours a day. She's such a drama queen.
And Laris is like, you want someone on your side? Say less, sis. And he goes to the cells.
Yes.
Now, okay, I'm going to admit I was super high the first time I watched this episode. This scene begins with the face of one of the men in the cells, and it's like pressed up against the bars, and it's like mostly taking up like the left side of your screen. And I'm not going to kid you guys, I thought it was like a stone face. Like, I thought we were looking at like a mountain. I could not tell what I was looking at. And so the more the camera pulled back, I was like, oh. Like, I was so confused where we were. I thought we were over like in Bravo somewhere with like stone men or some shit. I don't know. But anyway, no, we're just in the cells where these are men who have already been sentenced to die. And Laris offers them a chance for freedom, but it's going to cost them their tongues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he is, his position is he's the part of the King's Confessors, which, as you might be able to guess, are torturers. So he's not... Unlike our previous Whisperers, Varys and Littlefinger, who are more gray characters, this is not that.
Yeah, no, he's just a piece of shit.
Right.
So, Lena is in labor and she can't deliver, and Daemon is given the same choice that Viserys was given back in the first episode, which is... they can cut open and try to retrieve the baby that way. But Lena would not survive. And it's like the same thing, right? Like, as it stood in that moment, neither were going to survive.
Right.
Right. Lena was gone for sure.
Yeah. And Daemon just kind of shakes his head a little bit, like, no.
So he did the opposite.
Right. And in the book, she does have the baby. It happens a different way. She has the baby, and it's one of those dragon monstrous babies. Like, it has scales and a tail and all that kind of stuff, and it messes her up so much that she lingers and dies and can't get to Vhagar. So I know they have really shied away from doing the monstrous dragon babies ever since implying that Dany's baby was that way, but they didn't actually show it. They just had little dragony demon noises.
Right.
But this is a thing that happens every so often, maybe because of the dragon magic within the Targaryen family. So I like this better. If anybody thought, well, maybe there was a chance. No, there wasn't.
Yeah.
The baby would have died.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
She decides to end her life. She goes out to the beach and she orders Vhagar to do it. And like I said earlier, Vhagar really just did not want to do this at first.
Good thing. Yeah, she was just confused and
yeah.
wailing, it says.
Yeah. And then she got on board, understood what was happening. And you can tell, because Lena wasn't even looking at her when she realized that she was going to do it.
Yeah.
And Daemon arrives just as it happens. So this is much better than her not making it to Vhagar, passing out, Daemon carrying her back to the bed. This is so much better than the book stuff.
Yeah, as terrible as it was to really meet Lena as an adult and lose her by the end of the episode, I thought that this was a beautiful ending for her.
Yeah, much better than the book. Yeah.
Poor Vhagar. Alone again.
Sir Harwin says goodbye to his children and to Rhaenyra. And he does that, Ned Stark. The next time I see you, we'll talk about your mother.
Oh my god. Although I did like the line where he says, I'll be a stranger. And, if you look at the 7 gods, there's the stranger, and that's who you meet,
when you die. So. That's right.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's creepy. This whole thing, this whole mess between this and what was said in the courtyard when Harwin beat Criston's ass leads Jace to ask if he's a bastard.
Yeah.
If Sir Harwin is his father, and Rhaenyra tells him you're a Targaryen, and that's all that matters.
Right. And that's how she's been looking at it.
Mm-hmm. And she's right.
Yeah.
So she goes to find Laenor and tell him that they are leaving. They're going to go to Dragonstone. She's been undermined. They should have left a long time ago. And she tells him to bring his lover Carl because they're going to need every sword they can get.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. She feels that every move that she makes is being made into a spectacle. And that is what happened. She made her big political move, which should have been easily accepted. It would have settled everything, although it doesn't necessarily solve the problem of the 2 spare princes, but it would save Helena, and it would go a long way to merging their families together.
And I just don't... Go ahead, and they...
And everybody just laughs at her, basically.
And I don't understand why she didn't... And maybe this is the kind of stuff they shot, and then they just don't show us, but, she didn't have one conversation with the king. You're the current king. When you die, and let's face it, it could be any fucking moment now, Dad. I'm going to be the queen, and these are your wishes, and you've maintained this for more than a decade now, right?
Right.
Why not discuss this? Why not you and I?
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be what you and I say? If I say Jace is going to marry Helena, because what happens if you die and I propose it again? Does she get to say no? No. I'm the queen.
Right.
So why does she get to say no now? Why is she in this conversation? I just don't understand why we didn't get one conversation like that.
Yeah, and once again, it's just
Without
they're just
without
continually
the queen in the
hitting
room.
on
Yeah.
right the fact that Viserys is ineffectual. He does not want to have hard conversations. He doesn't want to have to make any aggressive moves, even if it's against Alicent, and it's not that aggressive, and it's good for everybody. He just won't. He just won't make it. And yeah,
She probably left thinking like, just die already, like, and I'll do it myself.
Yeah, like somebody said, I saw some meme or something where they're like, can somebody please tell Viserys he can just say they can get married and Alicent won't be able to say shit?
Right.
He can just say, I accept, thank you.
Well, Daemon did say that he was never really good at being king. He doesn't quite understand.
Biggest flaw. Yeah.
I did like here that Laenor asked her, what about your position? And how he, clearly wants to not be there. But
right.
he did stop to say, no, you've always said that you need to be here or else she'll pour honey in his ear. I love that he still wanted to consider what was best for her claim.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, again, that shows a level of closeness and, shared confidence that, we would have seen in 2 episodes. But again, I digress. Okay. Right. So, now, the fire at Harrenhal. Listen. Again, I don't know a lot of Game of Thrones stuff like you do. But I knew about a fire. And I thought I knew about more than one fire. And so when he was like, I want to escort him to Harrenhal, I didn't think anything of it, honestly.
Yeah.
And I knew that we were at Harrenhal in the first episode, right? When Jaehaerys named Viserys his heir, right? And it looked better than it did on the show, but it still looked like it had been damaged. So, all I knew when we see them riding up on the horses and then the guys appear, I didn't catch the first time I watched that in the jail scene, Larys had, is it a beetle, a bug pin or something on his cane?
It's a firefly.
A firefly.
I had to look this up to figure out what bug it was.
So what was Littlefinger? The spider? Or was that Varys?
Varys was the spider.
Varys was the spider, okay. Okay, so anyway, then you see the guys, watching them or following them or something. And I put in the group, when does the fire at Harrenhal, but my phone or iPad auto-corrected it to Harry Hall. And I just let it go because I knew that you guys would know. And right when I hit enter and that posted, the next scene is Lionel in bed, coughing awake. And I was like, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I didn't know that this is the fire. Okay. And that it's now. And then I didn't know they were going to die.
Yeah.
So I was not happy.
Right. Yeah. In the book, it is debated as to who set the fire. People said, somebody said Viserys did because he was trying to shut down all the rumors about Rhaenyra's bastards, right? Which, of course, I never believed that because Viserys doesn't make any moves.
Right. Okay.
And, was it Daemon because he was jealous of Rhaenyra's lover? Was it Larys because he was jealous of his brother and trying to take care of Alicent's problem for her? And now we find out that it definitely was Larys. And the last possibility was that it was Corlys because he somehow took these bastards as an insult to his house.
Ah, gotcha. No,
I never believed that.
The one that makes the most sense is the one that it is. At least here, anyway, right? The show is saying.
And that he fully intended to get them both.
Yeah, yes. This is so, like, when Lionel is waking up, you can hear, like, I don't remember if my closed caption said anything, like if it had anything, because I remember there were certain scenes where, like, background noise, I guess, or background conversation, it wasn't put on the screen. But I thought I heard him say, like, if you don't open the door, I'm going to die.
Yeah, he said, I will burn, I will burn.
Oh my God. I hate
And Lionel is just screaming, Harwin.
Yeah. And he can't.
It's so sad.
This was so terrible. Like, like Lionel was, he was great up until, I mean, he was still great the whole way through. But like this episode, this whole, like the Ned Stark of it all.
Right.
This
Too
is not,
honorable.
Yes, this is not the time to abandon your post and leave this fucking feeble-minded king vulnerable.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta know. And then in the room, the way the queen was so, it was so ridiculously noble, and it was just unnecessarily.
Yeah.
And then for it to cost him his life, it sucks. How many more L's do I have to take, Sarah, before I see somebody beat the shit out of Alicent or Cole, or, again, Cole?
Right. Cole, every day, please.
Right. If we could get, like, once an episode somebody beating his ass, I would love it.
I think, I feel like next episode that the Team Black will regroup.
Good.
And maybe be able to make some positive moves
from
that point.
I hope so. Wake the fuck up, y'all.
Hopefully. Yeah.
And it's very clear. They want you to know that the three men who lost their tongues but saved their lives set this fire at the behest of Larys, murdering his father and his brother. So Larys has the voiceover at the end of the episode. It's like a montage of things happening. Rhaenyra arrives at Dragonstone with the future that liberals want. Larys' voiceover is saying how children are a weakness. Viserys stares at his one good hand, and he's wearing 2 rings on one finger, and I thought one is his wedding ring with Emma.
Yeah, it's Emma's little ring that he keeps in his box, yeah.
And he kisses it. And then, and so Larys basically talked about how children are a weakness, and like through them we think that this is how we solve, the problem of mortality. Through them we get to live forever or whatever. Making meaning of our own lives, that whole thing. Basically, like what we were saying last week and the week before, stop bringing your kids to court because they fuck everything up.
Right.
And so as he's saying all of this, we see Rhaenyra's daughters mourning her, but Daemon choosing not to comfort them, even though we've seen footage of him hugging them. We've seen pictures of him talking to them.
And hugging them? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
What a weird choice. Why can we not have Daemon be a whole person and still be an asshole?
Right.
It's possible.
Yes. I agree. As Viserys looks at his one good hand and kisses that ring, he notices the rats. A rat on the mantle.
Rat!
So, this has been rats in the castle, rats in the Red Keep. We've seen rats at the wedding the end of last week.
Yeah.
Rats above the king's bed. And in this episode, he sees one scurrying across like the fireplace mantle, and he makes note of it. It's like the first time he's done so. Mm-hmm. And what I want this to mean is that he is now fully aware of all the rats.
Yeah.
And he's going to do something, and maybe it's going to be too little too late to, I feel like, I've been jokingly saying that I've been waiting for them to kill him. And I don't know that she actually would, especially because she has this whole morality, you know,
Right.
she's thinking she's, you know, taking the moral high ground in this. But
And she has a lot of power right now.
yes. I'm wondering what would be the thing to drive her. No, Nico. Sorry. I'm wondering what would be the thing to drive her if he insists on that marriage.
Right.
I'm going to try to get rid of my dog. He's being loud. No. If he insists on that, I can see her like saying, you know what? No. Let's do this now.
Yes, because he'd probably be stupid enough to mention it in private.
This is true. Oh, God. But I don't... Well, I'll just wait. I guess this is something we can talk about when he dies, if he dies. I'm basically
I'm sure it'll be soon.
I'm just curious how it happened in like the books, but I'm just curious to see if it's like, because so far there's been a lot of things that you've said that in the books are ambiguous. So I'm curious, like if that's one of them or not. And yeah,
No.
okay. So yeah, basically Lars confesses, and he's like, "You owe me one."
Yeah. I thought his phrasing was interesting when she said, you know, he says something about the gates of Harrenhal pass judgment. And she says, you pass judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, the queen makes a wish. And it was very Jockin.
Yes, it was.
In that moment.
Yeah.
I miss Jockin.
Are we supposed to feel sorry for her?
I don't.
It's like, I don't know if we're supposed to, but I don't.
It's like, yes, she is backed into a corner at this point, and he is very perversely burying his nose in the flower that he previously used to symbolize her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and be like, I'm sure you'll pay me back in some way. Like, gross. Like, wireman. But, and no, she didn't ask for this to happen. But I would know how you've had 3 meals a day or fewer, I don't know, with this man, barefoot dinners with this man. And you didn't know he was a whole psychopath because he came off as a psychopath in your first conversation.
And you peeped it then. And I feel like this is like one of those things where I'm sure this isn't the first questionable thing that he said or influenced on her behalf. And this feels like an escalation of things. And it was fine. I'm sure she overlooked a lot of stuff, just like she overlooked him calling her Rhaenyra a cunt, a spoiled cunt. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of shit where she could later be like, I had no idea he would do this. But if you look back at the pattern, it's like, yeah, you did, sis. Yeah, sure you did.
I guess this crossed the line in her honor and decency clause because he's now a kinslayer, but she's the only one who knows.
And I was about to say, like, what you do afterwards is interesting, but I just feel like if she wanted to, they would believe her over him. Her problem might be if he did say, well, no, I did it because she wanted me to.
Yeah. Now
that's just like poisoning the well. You know what I mean? Like, even if people believe her officially, and let's be real, Viserys would not believe her to, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like he would take her side. I think she would then be poisoned. I think people would always question whether she was conspiring or whatever. But I'm curious to see her reasoning in not doing that, in not turning him in. Yeah. With her whole decency stance. So, All right, so we went super long. I'm going to read one paragraph from each feedback that we got. And I'm going to let Sarah pick the numbers. So the first one was from Kimberly, and they're really small. So I'm going to do 1, 2, or 3.
3.
Okay. She says, so Damon and Lena, why did I say Lena? Lena have daughters, and she's pregnant again. Damon is making the same mistake with his daughters as Viserys did with Rhaenyra. We also get a repeat of Viserys and Emma and the birth of the child only this time. Lena kills herself rather than allowing Damon to kill her to try and birth the child. Interesting. Do you think that she thought that he would kill her? I don't even think she considered him at all in that decision, to be honest with you.
I think that she knew, like we said about Emma, if you just give her a minute, she will comprehend and accept what state she's in, because women know, especially at this time when they're at the end of their options. And I think she saw the conversation happening and got up and left while they weren't looking at her.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think she considered that at all.
Oh.
Okay, Anton. Oh, hey, Anton. 1, 2, or 3. I'm grouping like really tiny paragraphs into like one big one. So,
let's go 2.
Okay, so that would be from here to here. Okay, this is the Alicent I wanted to push off a window in the books.
Yes.
Yup, this is her. She, the Queen Karen Hightower of the Red Keep. The rude way in which she insinuated, whose white baby is that, to Viserys. Dog, if you don't stop while I'm working, go to Caleb. I think I know what he wants. Like, the way I have this chair and I'm setting up the mic is different than he's used to. So I think he wants to get up here with me, and he can't. So basically, I think he wants me to change my whole setup. But I'm almost done, so he'll have to wait. Anyway, and then making a woman who just gave birth to present the baby to her so she can troll her. Wow. Even that silly gaslighting way she was all, oh, Rhaenyra, you shouldn't be out of bed. Lady, you commanded her to present the baby for examination. Isn't that, I don't want to go spreading rumors, but isn't that kind of like what they do in the royal family too?
Yeah.
The baby has to be presented to the queen, or had to be before, and then they also do that like public thing where they stand on the balcony with that bullshit. Yeah. Good Lord. I how have we not just burned everything to the ground by now? The shit women put up with. Anyway. My God, feed her to Syrax now. I would love that. Okay, 1 or 2. Last one, Ashley.
1.
Okay. She says, hi, babes. I'm going to keep it short. Justice for Lena. We finally got her, and she gets snatched within an episode. I wanted to see Damon kill her betrothed and then run off to Pentos together. Yeah, I wanted to see some dragon adventures. I wanted to see them happy for a few episodes before I lost her. I wanted to see her friendship with Rey. Yeah. I've made my peace with it, but this show has to slow down just a little. That's my only complaint. Otherwise, fuck yeah, what an amazing episode. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I don't believe for a second that they didn't know they were getting a second season, but I guess, whatever. We could have had more. I would absolutely watch like a little mini series of just those 2 episodes.
Right. I think people were really clear when they started coming up with successor concepts that all we wanted to see was the Dance of Dragons.
Yes. Yes.
Literally all we want to see. Now, the Aegon's Conquest would also be good.
Yeah.
But really, this is what we want to see.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm sorry I kept you so long tonight. So much happened. I can't believe there's so much to talk about. Sorry, you guys, we cut short with the feedback. Lots of great stuff coming up. We're going to just say goodnight now before my dog shows his entire ass. But we'll be back next week to talk about episode 7.